people, it's just like in FF7, it's like, oh,
Oh,
what do you say? I don't know.
Just imagine we're all at a Mexican table eating some Mexican food, having some margaritas.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, we're live, guys. How's it going?
How's it going? Hi.
Hello.
Welcome, everybody. Can I get a sound check from anybody in chat? If anybody is in chat, how do we all sound relative to each other? Do you guys want to talk a little bit? Hey. Hello. Paul Messing,
hi.
welcome in. Come in.
Hey, what's up?
Jordan.
Hello. Testing.
Fantastic.
Hi.
Fantastic. Okay. Let's see. Let's go. You're audible. That's sounds clear. Everyone sound good so far from Ryan, the Night Sky Prince. Okay, thank you. All right. That's good. Okay, then let's start. Welcome to our second episode of SEAL Team 7 Revelation, a regular podcast that will happen at varying times throughout the months and weeks and days at obscure schedules, depending on when my guests can do it. And we're main focus, Final Fantasy VII Revelation, which is due out in the vague period of spring 2027. So we've got a fun year ahead of us talking about this stuff. I have some guests with some esteemed guests with us this week, and in the left-hand corner, upper corner, we've got NicoB. In the lower left-hand corner, we've got Nightalize, aka Jordan. In the lower right-hand corner, we have Professor Noctis, aka Wade, all of whom make their own content. All of that content is awesome with different specialties, and a lot of it relates to Final Fantasy VII, among other things. And then there's me in the upper right-hand corner, Schrodinger's baby seal, aka Clark. Welcome in. And today we've got a myriad of topics, some related to content created by the gentleman on this screen, and some just an emergent property of new interviews that have come out, because Hamaguchi will just not stop answering questions. They're sending them all over the world to get blitzed about questions that you could tell even he is surprised by. And so we'll go over some of that too. I want to start off with, just a basic kind of temperature set. I haven't got a chance to kind of talk to you guys about what your overall trailer reactions were, how you feel about the title, things that stood out. Do you think this was a good call? Anything maybe that bothered you a little bit about the trailers or the presentation? Let me know. And I'm going to start with my good friend, Wade.
So I was in the room when they announced it, and like my jaw hit the floor and I was like losing my mind. So the trailer was like completely everything I dreamed of and more. I honestly was surprised that we got as much as we did, but I think it's the perfect way to do it, because I think that if they had given us a teaser when we already know that it's coming, that it would have kind of fallen flat, similar to what we see with the Ocarina of Time remake. It looks awesome, but a lot of people are like, man, we knew it was coming because of leaks. So I think that was a really big thing. I have no complaints. Showing the high wind is when I screamed. I was like, we've got it. Like the fully explorable world. And when they Fortnite jumped off that thing, I was like, First Soldier is redeemed at last, baby. Let's do it. Because did y'all play First Soldier? I love that game.
I love First Soldier. I miss First Soldier every day. I hope they Final Fantasy Resonance the First Soldier.
Oh man, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
So I did not get a chance to try it.
It was so fun. It was so dumb how fun it was. Like I would feel really guilty how much fun I had. Yeah, like dressed up as a cactuar with a baseball bat and then hunting down Sleep Easy and stream sniping him was so like peak fun, yeah. What about the
It was the
title?
only game that I spent money on,
Oh,
right?
really?
Like the only mobile game. So I've never spent money on a mobile game, but that one I like broke the bank a little bit. So
Dang.
gone but not forgotten. The title itself, I mean, obviously, I love the title.
Yeah.
Like if there was one irk with me, it's just man, it's just a etymological sort of thing. I was like, remake, rebirth, reveal. Like,
Yeah.
can we have 2 syllables? But that is just a nitpicky sort of thing. But man, you know, I love Revelation, especially for all the things that I dive into. So
100%, yeah. And you know, I think I'm asking you
Yeah.
on the title because Revelation does have a specific philosophical connotation and a certain epistemic connotation that I think pertains to your content. So we'll get back to that here. That'll be our next big topic is what does Revelation mean? But it was good to hear your overall impressions, Wade. Next we'll go to Nico, and then we'll go to me, and then we'll end with Jordan, and then we'll go to the next question.
I lost my mind, dude. Just like, first off, the fidelity, like looking at actually just how insanely polished it was, which was sort of what I feel like expected, because like Hamaguchi has been like, hey, listen, man, this shit's gonna be landing any day now. This was like 8 months ago. You know, we're all just like, okay, like, so I almost expected that, like, all right, what they drop, will it be actually extensive, or will it just be like a teaser like we got with Rebirth? And no, it was insanely extensive. We're like, it's still freaking going? Like, what the fuck? Oh my God. Like, it was everything I dreamed and more of what it could potentially be. And just seeing the weapons. Also, I think the thing that really made me just so like, oh yes, the weapons are massive. Like, they actually are massive. Like, we've had big enemies in like Rebirth and Remake with like the summons and everything, where I was just like, I'm like, maybe that's it. He'll just kind of shrink them down a little bit and make them just like, oh yeah, just like little mini versions that are still pretty big, but you know, they're just hanging out here. But it's like, no, man, these things are like fucking like 18 stories high, and it's like, all right, we're just gonna be whacking his toes or something, you know? Like, so I'm so excited to just see how we engage with these insanely massive creatures.
Totally.
But yeah, and then I guess in regards to like the name of the game, I think it's awesome. Actually, that's a good point, Professor. I didn't even think about that. You're right. It's like a bunch. It's not 2 syllables. It's Revelation. It's 4 syllables now. Yeah. So it's like, oh yeah, that is kind of weird. I think maybe that's one of the reasons why a lot of us didn't even like consider it. We're always over here like, return, regrets, resolve. You know, it's like, but I think it's a great name. I think it's actually like, I heard it and it went, oh fuck, that's such a good call. Like, such a, and it gives me hope. It gives me hope because I want the series to come to an end with a feeling of like, oh, there was a purpose to this. It was like we did this for a reason, and not just like, hey, we got you guys talking for like 7 years, right, about stuff, but then it ends just kind of like what you expect. Let's move on to Advent Children now.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, so just real quick, I mean, obviously I've kind of discussed my reaction. I lost my mind. I was screaming out loud in a car, trying not to peel my skin off, you know, like, because that's where I watched it. And, you know, and even on like a small screen, like it was immediately clear that, you know, they had made this decision to present the footage from a PC capture, you know, because I recognized that it had a fidelity increase. And so I remember feeling really comfortable about that, feeling, okay, good. We're getting off to a really, you know, positive start, you know, like doing everything we can to, you know, throwaway gates that this game, that the previous title had, etc. And then as soon as I saw like the presentation of the teaser, I was like, this is a really good teaser. I'm a little surprised that this teaser had so many like UI reductions and things like that were really meant to like sort of not show anything. And then it was followed by something that had like extensive gameplay and even showed the weapon reveal. And it sort of made me feel like they decided to show off both of these at once instead of one first at, say, I don't know, the Sony event or something before. Instead decided like, hey, we really have to put our best foot forward here and eliminate a lot of the, the stuff that Wade was talking about, those, what does it really play like? What's it actually like? What does any of this mean? What's the outfit? Why does Tifa have a different costume? Things like that. Like, get rid of a lot of that stuff and just expose casuals to the gameplay experience instead of some of the more esoteric stuff. And I like the esoteric stuff as somebody that's already committed to the franchise. Like, you don't have to sell me, like, I'm gonna get it. And what I want to see from teasers and trailers is stuff to break apart, like little details. Where the fuck is the stamp dog? Where can I see, like the first detail I noticed was like the fact that the galaxy was backwards. And, those are the things that I was looking at. Like, is that the white materia? Those are the things that I'm looking at. And I think one of the best experiences I've had as a member of the fandom is the lesson that, this isn't all about me. They don't have to make all of these trailers and all of this stuff for me. I would rather, them sort of expose this to a broad audience. And I felt like they did that really well. Like, if I kind of look back, and I know this is a little nostalgia on some of my best experiences during the marketing of the Re-trilogy, one of them, I think maybe surprisingly to some, is being in downtown LA and looking at the mural of Sephiroth versus Cloud for Magic the Gathering, and seeing all these people who happen to be protesting, some political things happening in the area, look up at it and go like, oh man, I love that game. And I realized, this is kind of about them. This, I really want this game to, have the kind of impact on people that it had on me. And I think it positively changed the direction of my life. As far as the title goes, I think I was immediately just happy it wasn't Return. I don't know why. It was really important to me that it wasn't.
You didn't want that.
I just didn't want that, and some of it is like a gentleman's bet between Sleep Easy and me, and it was more important that he was wrong than that I was right. I didn't need to be right. I just needed him to be wrong. And I say that with love. Sleep Easy's in the chat. Thank you. And so I was happy that they made a choice that was, and I've already seen comments in all my videos like saying, I totally knew it was Revelation. Congrats, bro. Like, awesome. Good for you. Like, if you look at most like top 10 guests, and like there were polls done, FFTV did polls, a lot of FF Union did polls. Revelation was on like nobody's list. It was like on nobody's top 5. And part of it because it broke a lot of the naming conventions we talked about, like the 2 syllables thing, the re part.
Yeah.
But, one, it shows maybe we were looking at the wrong conventions. Like, one of the more important conventions, I think, for Rebirth was the fact that in Japanese it also could be read as reverse. And we get that with this title, as this title can both be read in Japanese as Revelation and Liberation. And having that double meaning, Remake having a double meaning, from the very start, like that was a more important convention to them. And again, I like the fact that they chose a title that they felt captured the essence of the project more than they wanted it to be a good marketing title or roll off the tongue. And so I always like that. As far as the actual trailer goes itself, I think everything looked perfect. I liked what they showed. I liked what they didn't show. Like, we saw no Aerith, no Zack. We saw, I think we'll talk about this shortly, is we saw a surprisingly small chunk, I think, of the game. Like, it looked so big from just what we saw, but I don't even think we made it past the first third of the game, and except for maybe one or two scenes, but we'll go over that later. And so I'll go over to Jordan. Tell us, Jordan, how was it?
It was amazing. I purposely stayed home to stream the showcase because I was like, if part 3 is here, I need to be home to watch it, be able to rip the shirt that I made and wore 2 times before this. So and then I was able to do it, obviously. And as soon as it started playing, I just started breaking out in tears. I was like, this is the music. It means so much to me. So I was trying to watch it and not go too crazy, because obviously when it showed up, I was like, oh my God, there it is, whatever. I was like, I gotta sit down, focus, take in what you're watching. Don't constantly talk to chat, whatever. So yeah, I thought it was great. I think what you guys kind of all said with the initial reveal, I thought it was really cool. And seeing everything that they showed was okay, we kind of knew some of these things would be there. And obviously the skydiving, Fortnite out of the high wind, we didn't know, but it was all stuff that we kind of would have guessed happened in some degree. So following up with the gameplay was the perfect, oh my God, and Hamaguchi's on stage with Matt Mercer. This is crazy. So yeah, I think it was perfect. I didn't think there was really anything that I wish they showed, and like you said, didn't show. I think it's good to not show too much. One, because I just don't really want maybe certain things spoiled before it comes out, even though I'm sure the final trailer will have plenty of things to
It'll spoil it all. So.
Plenty of things to show.
When that final throw happens, we're all just gonna have to run for a nuclear bunker. We gotta get out of here, get away.
Yeah, so that was great, but also like you said, yeah, I didn't want to see stuff for Aerith or Zack or anything else, because they have to drip feed it in some way. And also Rebirth came out on Switch and Xbox, so I imagine maybe that might have played a part a little bit. But yeah, it was great, no complaints. And then the title, you guys kind of all said the same thing. I'm glad we didn't guess it, and that's kind of how I think for me, and the whole theme of the remake trilogy has been, is we have an expectation. This would be cool if it happens. Title, things in the game, whatever. But it goes past that expectation and is totally different how we thought. It's still good, obviously not perfect. There's some things here and there in Remake and Rebirth, but it's we, everyone has said before, we don't know what we want until we get it. So same thing with the title. It was oh, that's a great choice. And I think the only person that guessed it was that dude on Twitter.
Yeah,
I don't know if he did Revelation
in 2015. Yeah,
that was crazy. But yeah, it was no complaints anywhere really.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Well, one of the reasons I brought this particular collection of people is that, there's been a lot of nervousness coming up to the third part of the trilogy because of how part 2 ended, because of Rebirth ended, at a pretty solid dramatic crux, but from the purpose of getting through at least the OG narrative and potentially going even further beyond that, which, has always been sort of an unspoken promise of the re-trilogy, the amount of real estate necessary to cover in the story has always been, I think, a concern with ending the game of part 2 at the Forgotten Capital instead of the Northern Crater, and the fact that we haven't gone to Rocket Town yet, and that Wutai is apparently going to be this large portion of this game. How do they make it all fit? Plus all these other unresolved plot threads involving, the other worlds or world lines or multiversal dream space, however you want to conceptualize that, however they want to conceptualize that. How do we have room to resolve all of those things, get through all of that stuff? And from what we saw of the trailer, we saw things that sort of immediately like that we could pick out as this is near the northern crater. This is the northern crater. There's a lot of snow around. And then this is Mediel and this is Wutai. We saw Tifa escaping capture. We saw the Sapphire weapon. And so we're seeing these elements of the structure of the FF7 story, still intact, showing up in these trailers. So we kind of know it's there. So how does this start? And both Jordan and NicoB have had kind of a similar strains of thought on how the game actually starts. And so I want to start with Jordan. So what do you think the pathway is, from the game opening to getting to Junon to getting to Mediel, and how does Wutai factor into that?
So I guess I'll go with where I think it will start past like the first opening sequence, because in Rebirth we had like the Zack stuff and that whole like shock. So I have an idea for that, but for like the part after that where like we'll be with the party is what Nico also said the other day. Was in the trailer they have like the Vincent and Sid intro. I think it's the gameplay trailer. And Vincent like shoots the monster, whatever it is, weapons or something. He's like, I'm Vincent, blah 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 blah. Sid does the same thing. He's like, Sid Highwind, whatever. And so I was like, okay, maybe they'll start it there after rewatching it, because either they made that exclusively for the trailer or they did it because that's the start of the game, which it would be weird if they made that specifically for the trailer. But I think that's where it will probably go. Like, if we're just going straight from Rebirth, we're in the air, and like something happens, Sephiroth messes with the tiny Bronco, and then like crashes, and we land from the parachutes. Maybe that introduces the mechanic right away. And then we go there, and then we finally have combat with the characters Sid and Vincent, whatever they do their introductions. And then it kind of kicks everything off, because I think in an interview from one of the 23 that Hamaguchi was on, mentioned that Cloud will have use the black materia, was it, like, from the start? So that would be, I guess, a way to really like kick it off and get it going. Because my worry was like, if they go straight there and do all the reunion stuff right away, even though we've had 2 games of build up towards that, you still need to act like this is a whole new thing, and you still need time to build up to that moment and build the tension. So you can't just start the game, oh look, here's Zack doing something, oh my gosh, we're now at the crater. Like, you're supposed to feel tension. Like, you can't really just do that right away. So I feel like having maybe some section in the beginning, whether that's like Zack or Aerith or something, and then cuts to that with the crew, could be like a solid 2.5, maybe 3 hours. Because once again, I think also it was said that like 5 to 6 hours in, the Highwind is accessible, so could work out. But yeah, I think that's kind of how it would go. I think I said this last night on stream. I don't know how they're going to start the game like right away. But one possibility, which this could be totally stupid, I'm not like a huge theory guy, I just get excited for the game, is like if they just go straight from Rebirth with Zack, which they could, maybe they'll do young Sephiroth or something else probably, but they could do 2 bits here. Go just straight from where Zack was at the end of Rebirth. Spoilers for Switch players. And he's in the church, and he's there still, maybe, and maybe he's in the timeline or universe or whatever it is, with like the actual crew. I think you guys have mentioned that in the previous episode with Max, or someone mentioned it, but maybe he ends up there somehow. And I was thinking, because in the trailer, when Cloud looks at the lilies and he's like clearly talking to Aerith, or in the live stream or whatever that is, I thought there could be maybe like a side quest throughout the game, like the proto relics or something, that in each area there's like these lily spots that you, as the characters, whether that's Cloud, Zack, anybody part of the team, can go up and touch. And kind of like how in Rebirth, when you go to I think it's the springs, and Chadley's like, hey, blah 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 blah, something with the spring, whatever. It could be something similar, and there's maybe like a very few amount, like maybe 1 per location, or even less. And you could go up. It could be maybe Aerith speaks to you or doesn't speak to you, and it's like the live stream that guides you, like how in Ghost of Tsushima, when you I I think you need to find where to go. There's like the wind. It could be kind of something like that. And then that brings Zach to the party. Like she could be guiding him to them, which then he'll meet up with them post
Yeah.
the reunion, whatever. But I thought that'd be cool, like side quest, but it also could then tie into how the game could start, because maybe they'll do like flashbacks to Advent Children, or I don't know, something with Aerith with the live streams. I'm excited to see what's up with Aerith. But
This all
that's kind
sounds
of
so great. I
don't know. Like the church would be the good place to start it too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. That's my guess.
See,
for the
Jordan's
beginning.
a dreamer. I like that. I like
I-
take big swings, dream
I don't know.
hard.
I'll be wrong. That's okay. I'm just excited.
Shooting for the
so-
stars.
I'd rather be
Yeah.
wrong. Yeah. I mean, I want to be wrong. I say that often it's like if I guessed it, then I'm as creative as it, and I would rather the game surprise me and be more creative than me. Wade, what do you think?
Jordan, I love what you said about the church scene. And I think what we're probably going to get, similar to the beginning of Rebirth, we're going to pivot quickly from kind of the end of Rebirth to what is the core or crux of this third installment. And I think that's Sephiroth. And I think that even if you look at kind of what they did, the marketing did as far as the episode 1, 2, and 3, you've got Cloud on the left, you've got Aerith in the middle, you've got Sephiroth on the right, all mirroring the original jewel case from the PlayStation, right? Everything points to this being Sephiroth's story, but I think that they could do it using some of the stuff from the trailer already by showing Zack sitting in the church, and you get that Aerith-Zack reunion very quickly. Whether she awakens or walks in the back of the church or something, there is some sort of reunion, but very quickly they look up and they see this vision of Sephiroth holding a lifeless Cloud, and that kind of gives them that impetus for what their role is during this third portion. And then I think what we'll probably do is we'll see a very delusional Cloud beginning to walk through the Icicle Inn region. That's kind of where I'm thinking it's going to go. But my biggest thing is they've got to establish Sephiroth in a revelatory way in this one. He's been enigmatic. He's been mysterious. We've really got to dive into that. And plus, knowing some of the lore from Ever Crisis, and maybe this is just my wishful thinking, I just want that backstory brought in here, because I think it does frame some of his motivations. And to really understand what is at stake, you've got to cement Sephiroth's motivation from the very beginning. I don't think they can just lore dump all in the Northern Crater or in the live stream sequence. I think it's got to be throughout. So that's my thought. Church, see the mountain of reunion, black-robed figures, and then Sephiroth at the top, and that galvanizes Aerith and Zack.
Nico, I know you have a lot to say on this.
Yeah. So I think it's a good point, Professor. And actually, I really agree that I think so much of what Ever Crisis has set up with Sephiroth's motivations and showing him as a young man and actually showing him as a person, right? Not just like the right arm of Genova, that he essentially is in the original game, right? He essentially just like turns into alien mom's like weird, like upset tantrum throwing son who's like, I'm a weird fucking alien son guy. I'm just gonna blow the planet up. It's like, no, he's now developing into a person who has motivations outside of that. He clearly is trying to, I think, what I assume is separate himself from Genova in that way. He's actually like, I want to do things my way. This is how I actually foresee either a future where there is no death, or a place where I can be the hero that I've always wanted to be. So I think I would genuinely love having a playable section at the start of some kind that had young Sephiroth and showed him like actually be a person, right? Because even in we get that in like Cloud's flashback, which I love. Even all the flourishes that they added to the rebirth flashback of Sephiroth, of all like his banter with Cloud, him and like oh, you know, work is no fun at all. Da, da, da. Like I loved that so much. Of like, yes, I want more of that. I want to see more of like Sephiroth struggling to just like find his way in the world, essentially, right? And I think if they want to do like a cool tutorial or something, all right, of like easing us into it, because I do think I still feel strongly that there is gonna be some weird thing we're gonna get at the start. Because can you sort of imagine like that they just drop us in there? Even if I'm saying, like, I still said in my video that I think they'll start at the Northern Crater, right? I pointed that out, but also the idea that they drop us in there and we have now like 7 fucking characters we have to juggle through. It's like, here you go, bitch. Like, that's a lot to throw at a person, right? Sure. Even if it is coming from a third game and a lot of us have already played the previous ones, that's a lot to go through. So I'm sure there's going to be some form of a tutorial that is like focused on a singular character or just a few characters and like builds us up to it. And I feel like there have been theories, right? There have been, like, Max has said, like, a playable Avon Children thing at the start. That'd be fucking cool. That would be neat. But I think, personally, I really want to see, like, a game that this game is as much of Sephiroth focus as we sort of think it is. I want to see, like, something that right off the bat shows who he is, who he was, what he's trying to maybe do, give us an idea, and maybe even give us a feeling of sympathy of him. Just like, I understand it, even if I don't agree with it. And like, because so much of that Ever Crisis stuff is actually amazing. And I really hope it's not just like, I hope that we don't get to the end of this game and go like, well, are you having a hard time understanding the full story? Well, thankfully, we've got this free-to-play game, this gacha game. To go ahead and download it as soon as the credits roll. Like, I want it to be included in this story. I want it to be something that we get at the forefront. And to get a chance to actually experience a bit of why Sephiroth is the way he is. And also just to ease us into the game. But and then, basically Northern Crater stuff. There's a lot of evidence. I feel like that's probably where we're actually going. I think, like you said, we are actually going to be like, we've basically seen only like a little bit of the game, maybe only the first 10 hours of the game through most of the stuff that we've seen in these trailers. So
yeah, there's a few little things that maybe point to late game stuff, like the all of a sudden the HP jumps to like 7,000.
Yeah.
When they're showing off fits, and we're fighting Ochu, so I actually feel like that might be like, secret dungeon, like Forgotten Forest type stuff, ancient forest type stuff.
They're trying to be coy because I think they don't want us to be like super aware that like Cloud's gonna peace out for probably the first like 30% of this game, for like a while.
They do some prestidigitation with the trailer where it's like Cloud's the one jumping off in the teaser trailer.
Yeah.
Right. But like, we all know
it's like everybody jumps off first, and then Cloud's like, wait for me, guys.
But we all know it, that's going to be sort of a Tifa led section. And I am excited about that. But, so to sort of lead into, it feels like it's a ton of real estate to try and actually scale to, there's that, it's kind of an interesting section of the OG, like we get to the Icicle and we get like these kind of somber lore drops about Aerith and Professor Gast, and then we snowboard, and then we have like a mini game that involves going through these. It's sort of unlike the rest of the game at all. Like, trying to get through that unmapped area, and then in the snow, and then temperature rising stuff, like trying to increase our body temperature stuff, like all that stuff is, like if that's how the game starts, I'm surprised we got 0% of that in the trailer. And so it does feel like we really kind of cold open past that journey. And if we look at the some of the battle footage, we're seeing that it's in like the 2000s, like very early in the progression for HP, when we're fighting Genova, right? So like the game seems to start kind of really close to the summoning of Meteor somehow, and so it kind of skips that part. And I think that probably, it would be better to kind of reorder events so that when we have to make our way back, to the Northern Crater to fight, to do the final battle, that we get some of that lore drop stuff and get to go through kind of those weird areas if we ever get to go there. We get to skip Bone Village, which, I'm really sorry to the 5.
We get to skip.
One out
Yeah.
to Bone Village, bro.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Bone Village stands. You're cooked. It's over.
Well, to be fair, in the Cosmo Canyon area, do you remember when we had to do that like proximity-based hunt quest? It was almost excavation. That was one of the most frustrating parts of that game, in my opinion.
That was so
and
dumb.
so
that was such a dumb
if that was
game.
if that was the Bone Village section, I'm fine. I'm
good.
okay with it being
We're
in the
good.
past.
Boneless Village. Yeah. I love
Boneless
it.
Village.
I love it. So yeah, I agree. That we're probably they're gonna get creative with the way they reorder this. I also think that it's likely that we're only going to visit Rocket Town the once. Like with Tiny Bracco's not a thing that we have to get. A truck doesn't have to hit Palmer anymore, and so I think there's an interesting kind of potential Sid character mask off moment when that happens. There's and there's an economy of storytelling where we get to sort of if we visit things once and then we can always visit them again in post game for additional lore, like for story flow things, it's gonna feel like overall everything's been touched, even though we've gone in a way that is more compatible with the game experience we're having. But like we're clearly like there's this big chunk in the trailer of like all of a sudden we're in Junon, right? So we see a little bit of this Genova Death fight. Genova Death looks cool as shit, by the way. And I'm sure whatever that Genova theme song is going to be like fucking bars.
Oh yeah, dude,
I hope it has.
So excited.
I hope it has more kids like doing creepy child choir stuff, like like Okabe style near stuff, because that was awesome. I want as much of that. Get as weird as you can with Genova. And we've already talked about Sephiroth as being like previously being this kind of Jaws villain that just completely relies on aura and not making the player think too hard about why they're evil, why they've made this choice. But I agree with what a lot of you have said already, is that that's a missed opportunity, because what we see is that Cloud and Sephiroth are foils of each other. They're both corrupted, they're both orphans with horrible childhoods and pain, corrupted by an alien entity. And the difference in the way that they respond to those things through their journey is centered around how they relate to other people, how they rely on other people, how they care about other people. That foil is sort of the central conflict of Final Fantasy VII. And it's I think a lot of the messaging and the heart of it, as JRPG as that sounds, like this is the JRPG that started a lot of JRPGs. A lot of that trope relies heavily on a 1997 game called Final Fantasy VII, and so them leaning into that and reinforcing that message is never a bad thing, in my humble opinion. But how do we get dramatically to this place? And for me, I think Hamaguchi was sent to China, and he had this really wild Q&A where people were really all over him about like, do Cloud and Sephiroth date? Does Sephiroth love Cloud? Just insane questions like that, which obviously he does. Like he loves Cloud in
The most
every
important question.
universe. in every universe, he is just a terminal cloud botherer. But one of the things that was said is that will Cloud and Sephiroth team up to fight again in Final Fantasy Revelation? Now, obviously, we got a team up sort of between Cloud, and Sephiroth in the intro to Rebirth, and spoilers, 30-year-old spoilers, but that wasn't actually Cloud. That was Zack, but we were wearing Cloud's skin and we had his abilities, and and that was our team up in Rebirth. And the answer to that was, this is quite a difficult question. I unfortunately can't really speak much on the story at the moment, but what I can say is that this is indeed the conclusion of the remake series. How Cloud and Sephiroth will be portrayed, it will probably go beyond your expectations. So please let your imagination run wild for now. Now, a lot of people responded to that going, thank God the Sephiroth redemption arc is here. We get to team up against Jenova with Cloud, Sephiroth, Genesis, Zack, and Gilles using the live stream Buster Sword, and we're going to fight Jenova. That's what that means. And I didn't read it that way at all. Instead, what I read was something a lot darker. And one thing I will say is that the Ultimanias in particular have been consistent that Sephiroth is the villain. He takes control of Jenova. His will, his response, to co-opt Genova's plan, they're all his. All of the different question mark forms of Jenova, of Sephiroth, are all governed by a single will, right? And so it's been clear, at least from a developer interview standpoint, that he will remain the central villain, and that that his malicious will, even though is tragic and has a tragic story, and we're getting more of that in Ever Crisis, he's the antagonist, right? So I didn't read this quote that way. Instead, the way that I read it, and I made me really excited, and I think that at the end of this central arc, after fighting Jenova Death, and when Cloud clearly simps out and hands over the materia to Sephiroth, that will be the team up that we're talking about. And I think we're going to get a full-blown, one of the most requested things is that the party has to fight against Cloud. And it would be crazy if they had to fight, like, do this really hard sort of fixed outcome battle against Cloud and Sephiroth. I think they could go even a step further and maintain the POV of Cloud for that fight and make us fight the party with Cloud and Sephiroth.
That's a rad idea. Holy shit.
Cool.
That's where I'm hoping. So that's my next strain of thought for you guys to kind of go off of. I'll start with Wade, then we'll go to Jordan, then we'll go to Nico.
Love the idea of kind of having empathy or sympathy for Sephiroth's motivations. Yeah. And that kind of goes back to what I was saying a little bit earlier, but Cloud for his entire life idolized Sephiroth, and you get that as far back as the water tower scene with Tifa. He wants to be like Sephiroth. And so to have this reunion with Sephiroth in part 3, where they are aligned in purpose and in mindset, fighting alongside him, that to me is going to be really important, because it's like, you know what? Sephiroth does kind of have a point. And so in the battle between the will of the planet, or Aerith, or the live stream, and the battle of the will of Sephiroth, which side makes the most sense to me? Mm-hmm. And so to kind of have a little bit of that, but then to ultimately see Cloud dissociate from that idolizing of Sephiroth, and to say, no, this is where I end and you begin, and I can't go that way with you. I think that's going to be critically important. It should feel wrong. It should feel like when you first play as Abby in The Last of Us, right? When it's like, am I doing this? Am I fighting Ellie? All right. That sort of thing. It should feel like a scandal to some degree, even though you begin to understand that. Now, my thought with that is, I would freaking love that from a fan standpoint. Mm-hmm. They've got to be so careful though, because sometimes it can just feel like a little bit Avengers Assemble, and let's just kind of do our fan favorites with our toy sets. Let's make sure that it's grounded in a really, really strong purpose and narrative. And what are we trying to say through this battle and this fight? That would be my only concern and caution with that scene.
Fair enough. Jordan?
So kind of what you said, Wade. I agree there, and I also think like why like there has to be a reason why the stuff that happened in Rebirth at the end happens. Like they're not going to do the team up at the end of that game in Bizarro Sephiroth at the end of the game, even though it's supposed to be like at the end of the FF7 original, so people thought it would be at the end of part 3. So like there has to be a reason why they put that there other than it just being, "Oh, let's just do it now because we want to." Like that's most likely not the case because there's seemingly and hopefully a whole plan and always has been a plan. So I think I was thinking about this the other day as well, like since we got some Advent Children stuff like recreated in the final fight with like Tifa and Barrett when they had like the scene with them and everybody doing the team up. What if maybe we did like or they did like an opposite of the Advent Children Cloud versus Sephiroth fight, but it's Dark Cloud with whether it's I don't think Sephiroth they're not going to make him good like that. I don't think that'd make much sense. But maybe something with Dark Cloud and the team fighting him or something that would just mirror that because that's kind of what Cloud and Sephiroth are. So just flipping that on its head, other than just doing like a straight up Easter egg reference, like, hey, look, they're doing the Omni slot, like he's doing the thing again. Oh my god, look, it's cool.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a bit more interesting because it's still happening, but it's once again taking our expectations and flipping it. But yeah, I don't really know like how it would happen without like once again Wade said the whole Avengers Assemble kind of thing because you want it to be exciting and fun and like oh my gosh look at that, but not to a point where it loses like the feeling of intensity or even just turning into kind of like a not to say Kingdom Hearts does this all the time, but just like a Kingdom Hearts kind of thing, like the end of 3 a bit. So yeah, I don't really know.
Jordan, I want to like pick up on something you said there. You mentioned Kingdom Hearts 3. I think that this image has been brought about a lot of times between Sephiroth and Aerith that they are in this chess match. And I think that that could be a really interesting way of thinking about Aerith has done this, Sephiroth has done this, and we're almost getting some degree of flashbacks of why they were doing the things they were doing throughout the remake rebirth sagas. And then to maybe think in terms of like, we only understand at this point why Aerith and the party are wanting to do these things. But like you said, they've got to ground it. And if they can ground it, then it's like, create that inner conflict not just for the characters but for the player themselves. And man, then like you're really cooking in something. I think I don't know.
Yeah, I don't have much other like explanation for it because I really don't. I leave it up to you guys most of the time to do the ideas, and I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. I'll watch a video and be like, yeah, maybe they're right, maybe something similar to that. So that's as far as I can really think of.
Such a puppy.
Yeah. Nico?
Okay, so first off, I absolutely adore the idea of like a fight with Cloud with him like and one thing I noticed when looking back at the Genova death fight, something that I sort of realized when watching it was that it looks like that fight is actually happening inside like the Icicle Cavern, like the actual like ice cavern area, and not necessarily within the Northern Crater area like it was before. Which made me go, well, that's interesting. Are we technically getting that fight maybe a bit earlier? Is that going to be our quote unquote schizo fight, right? Like that's going to be our maybe tutorial fight with the actual the gravitas, the fight that has the emotional weight, the heft of like the big moment, the inciting incident. That's going to be maybe with Cloud. And here's the thing, and when you guys were talking about this, it sort of hit me, and I was like, oh my god, if they want to fuck us up in so many ways, like truly get us in a feeling of like, oh man, like just imagine something. Let me throw this out here. This just get your brain thinking. What if when we get down there, right? We've seen scenes, right, of Sephiroth like caressing Cloud's face. We see this like of clearly he's probably seeing something that maybe we don't see, right? Maybe he's seeing an Aerith standing there. What if we get down there, right? Things happen. We're still in Cloud's perspective. He sees Sephiroth as Aerith.
Yeah.
And then he manages to convince them that the rest of the party is out to get him.
Man.
Like, oh, those are all fake. Those
That
aren't
would be-
real. You need to fight them. So us, the player as Cloud, alongside Sephiroth / Aerith, he sees it as Aerith, but maybe it's really Sephiroth. We start fighting our party. What if we actually are in control when that happens? We're actually over here.
That would work
We
so
fight
well.
our teammates.
That would work
And,
so well.
like,
That's such a good idea.
I adore that. I adore
That
that.
shit is like, I'm like, oh my God. Like, imagine that you could like hear your friends trying to yell at you, like, stop, don't do this. Like, we're over here, like, and Aerith is like, don't listen to them, Cloud. Like,
Yeah.
like he's like, you're right. Like you're over here just beating the crap out of it. And maybe that's how this part goes. Maybe they save even like an actual fight with Cloud, like us fighting Cloud for maybe even later. Maybe it wouldn't be in this point. I don't know. It kind of depends, but like it could be that they do it where we fight our party and then we transition to like Tifa and then we're forced to fight Cloud, or we save it for later. It depends on how do we handle Cloud in a wheelchair or things like that. But that idea, I think, is so like, if they want to hit us hard, and that's such a good way to do it, of just like, holy shit, fuck, don't make me fucking do this. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to do this as the player. And like, you're seeing Cloud do it, you're like, no, stop it, you stupid bitch. Like, trying to get Cloud to stop being an idiot for 2 seconds. But also just to like, I feel like that would be potentially a good way as well to have, like, if they want to have Cloud and Sephiroth team up again, what if they team up against our own party? And he's just like, unbeknownst to him, right?
Yeah.
Class sees his weird dead girlfriend.
That's
Yeah.
a good idea.
I adore that. That's so good.
Yeah.
I think that would be pretty powerful.
That sounds fantastic. I'm not making a statement on whether or not the dead girlfriend thing reflects my shipping beliefs whatsoever, so don't come at me. Direct all of that at NicoB. His stuff is in,
I'm just
in
saying
the video
stuff
description.
I'm just saying stuff to be funny.
No, I'm totally joking. No, that sounds good, and it sounds like, you know, I mean, all of this stuff addresses plot points they set up. I mean, it is a fact that Cloud's state of mind and his ability to recognize whether or not Aerith is alive is different from the rest of the party, whether that's based on some kind of sickness or reality or a weird mixture of both. You know, that's still one of those unresolved things, and that's one of those things that they didn't touch on at all in the teaser and the gameplay reveal. And so I do find that super fascinating. Great discussion so far. Great point. I want to shift over to, let's just moving forward a little bit. We clearly have this situation where Cloud's now out of the party, hopefully because of some super badass, ultra dramatic fight, that we have now canonized with this chat. We've got Tifa at least leading the party. We see her leading the party for a little bit. And we know that at one point in the OG, like, the next person that's in charge is Sid, but we see then, that kind of Wutai, at least a portion of what we see, Yuffie is in control. And so it feels like there's this divergence, and a lot of the Wutai footage doesn't have Cloud involved at all. Some of it does, but that seems to have a little higher HP totals. So it feels as though maybe we're going to see, maybe this kind of sandbox storytelling start to show up, where right after we get to Mideel, maybe Mideel, we get Tifa's segment there. But something has to happen that involves, Shinra. us getting the high wind in an exciting way, us escaping, you know, Junon clearly. And then we get to this part. How do we see the story kind of diverging? How do they make all of this work? Do you think it's a good idea for Yuffie to be, party leader for her segment there? What are you looking forward to from Wutai? I know this is a big, giant thing, but I want you to have like a free sandbox space to discuss stuff with. And I'm going to start with Nico, then go to Wade, and then end with Jordan.
Well, I think that the way we're approaching Wutai in this game, to be honest, is way more interesting than the original game, right? The original game, in a lot of ways, was essentially the idea that Wutai had sort of just kind of given up, right? They became like this little touristy area. And it's more focused when you go there about just Yuffie essentially coming to terms with her own family, essentially setting up like that, just like her little arc within the story. Because also, to be honest, all right, and I mean, I love the OG game, but in a lot of ways, Yuffie felt like this weird outlier of like, she was an optional character. She didn't feel like she necessarily contributed a ton to the major plot of the game, right? It was just like, yeah, she's just kind of there. She's this weird little ninja girl, you know. But in this game and in this series, and it's something that I genuinely respect and I love that they did, is that they made Wutai a significant player in this game. So, and by in turn, because they still have this friction with Midgar, where they still have this friction with Shinra, they are actually participating. There's going to be maybe like a war, right? Like another war. And that has made Yuffie feel significantly more important. The Yuffie DLC and remake was fucking incredible because it essentially showed her like going on a mission, right, for the Wutai and actually like getting integrated into the story in such an interesting way. So what I really want to see is just that continuation of that idea of now seeing them as this major player, as Wutai being a significant area that's not just this like, yeah, sure, we'll just do this for fun, you know, like some side stuff. Like I want to get the politics, man. I want to see like,
yeah,
like within the city, how they view the rest of the world, what their like actual contributions to this new version of the story are actually going to be. And I think having Yuffie act as our liaison, the person that we're like going to communicate with them, to go in there and go on her own journey, and like I think is going to be genuinely compelling. I think that's going to be actually probably one of the coolest parts that I think will, like, I think most of us will be like, bro, it should always have been this way. Like,
Yeah.
this is how FF7 should always have been. So I'm so excited. I think this is such a smart idea to make Wutai just, it's going to be a huge area. It's going to be probably an incredibly captivating story of like how they actually fit into this new remake timeline, essentially.
I love it. And so for context, there's a lot of additional lore to the politics and the geopolitics of the area. There's something called the Republic of Junon, and it's subtext in the if you play side quests and stuff like that and read read Chadley stuff, or if you read the books, like the and Ever Crisis. The Republic of Junon was basically this was both continents, like Nibelheim and the continent that Midgar and Junon are on, the main continent, fell under this republic, and it was a republican government, not the way that we use republican in America, but it was literally a republic, so it was a democratic government. And what happened is a single individual corporation started to get totalitarian power because of its ability to extract and use Mako, and it toppled it, as sort of a monolith. It's sort of there's no ands, ifs, or buts about it, and you can get mad at me all you want. It's about late stage capitalism, and whether or not there's good or bad messaging in there isn't really what I'm saying. I'm just saying that's what literally happens in the game. and we get more context for what the Republic of Junon used to look like before Shinra's rise to power. And now there isn't just Avalanche. There's Avalanche. There is the SRC, which is the Shinra Resistance Company. And there is also, in some of the books, the group of dissidents that Zangan was affiliated with, which was somehow neither of those things. And so there's all these like anti-Shinra forces, that have been given this lore, and they have this perfect place, to introduce and resolve all of that in, the one sort of stronghold from Shinra's reign over this globe, and that's Wutai. We know some new things too, that like Godo is imprisoned somehow. We know that he is not going to be somebody that we're probably going to run into the same way. He's been captured, he's in prison, and Yuffie doesn't seem too mad about it at Intergrade, and so that's all context to bring into this. And I'm just sort of laying the groundwork if we talk about Wutai. Wade, go for it.
When it comes to Wutai, for me, I've been interested in it since the Cosmo Canyon scene around the candle, the like lantern ceremony, where Yuffie is just kind of perplexed. Like, what's all this? I mean, when you die, you die. She comes from a world with a very different mythology, a different understanding of the world, and has absolutely no sensibility regarding the way that Midgar and the rest of the world has really functioned. And so to go into that and to dig into, well, how have they made sense about life? Wutai appears to be the other major player in the world, as opposed to Midgar. Is that an accurate way of saying it? Like, these are almost equals, but very oppositional. And so of all of the places in the world where Midgar's reach cannot fully touch, Wutai is that primary resistor, it seems. Not just in their kind of capitalist takeover, but also in ideological takeover as well. And so to get into this and to understand kind of the roots of some of their lore in the original game, I remember that's where you got the Leviathan materia, and I'm really curious about some of those sort of things. My favorite way of playing through Rebirth was understanding how everyone deals with suffering, whether it's Gongaga, Calm, Junon, Midgar, all of it, and to see how Wutai does that in a completely different way is going to be interesting. Also, how does that pair with Yuffie's craving and hunt for materia as a source of power? And I'm curious if we'll get a division between Yuffie and the party like we do in the original game, because they kind of have skirted over that a little bit and completely not addressed it, where she steals all the materia. That could also be a really interesting way for a tutorial. Yuffie makes off with your materia, and suddenly, how do you play the game again now that you have to get your materia back? So I don't know how that might play into that beginning piece. I think for me, as far as Wutai is concerned, though, in the trailer we see Yuffie running somewhat frantically alongside Red, and I am curious what they are running to or from at that point. Maybe it is kind of the beginnings of the war on Wutai ground, but whatever it is, I'm pretty excited. Also, Don Corneo. My gosh,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that part in the original, like I'm excited for his return in the best way. I'll tell you though, like Jordan, you have so much about you just have all this extensive knowledge with Japanese culture and your learning and understanding of it. I would be really curious about what you picked up in the trailer and what you were excited about from those things. I just mused kind of as like a fangirl of the Wutai of the OG, but like, did you see anything particularly interesting?
Um, Not really. Like I watched the trailer a couple times and like sit through and look at it too much because I was like, it's they're showing it off a little bit. So I don't think there's anything really specifically that based off like my language studies or like being there, something that I could really notice or that I think would maybe like give me or give us like an idea for it. Um, but I appreciate you thinking that maybe I would have a bit more insight on that. I'm not as insightful as you are on some of those things, but thank you.
I thought you might have had a Leonardo DiCaprio moment of like
No,
that thing.
I wish when you said that, I'm like, actually, funnily enough, I have it written down right here. Not the case. Not the case at all.
No way! I was just about to say it.
Yeah. But yeah, no. Do you have anything else? I don't want to.
No. Go.
Okay. Speaking of Don Corneo, real quick, I was gonna ask you guys like because in Rebirth we have him pop up with I think it's the Proto Relic quest, or is it with Kid G? He pops up.
He shows up in the tournament, right? In
tournament.
the Don Corneo Cup of Rebirth. Or
Yeah.
are they talking about the OG game?
Yeah.
In Rebirth, because he's in the desert.
But there's also something with the Kid G stuff. You're
'cause
right,
they're
but
in
his
the
main
desert.
thing's in the Coliseum. Yeah.
Yeah,
he
because
does.
Gilgamesh, like when he's like a sand monster. I got the platinum, so I did everything, but it's been a long time. But something.
Oh,
like
so you
Don
did it
Corneo's
before
been-
they nerfed it. Nice.
I
That's
guess
gamer
I have
cred.
no idea.
Yeah.
So I was wondering and gonna ask you guys, like, do you think that will be like an optional thing? Like if he's in Wutai, kind of because I know Hamaguchi said that depending on where you go, obviously there may be some different things that happen with characters, and I don't think it's going to be like anything so drastic that it's going to change your outlook of like the game. Maybe when like you roll the credits, um, but kind of what you brought up, Clark, with like how we could go to like something with Wutai or what we're gonna do with Rocket Town. I was thinking maybe there will be a choice, and maybe Rocket Town's later on in the game. It's like, okay, do we go to Wutai first or Rocket Town? Like you can pick, and depending on the one that you pick, then you could maybe get some sort of different small event, nothing too crazy because they don't want to deviate too much and make it too free. But if you pick maybe Wutai first, you go there and maybe Don Corneo, you witness the whole thing that happens there and, whatever. Or if you do Rocket Town first, maybe, because you mentioned this earlier, maybe Palmer's there and he gets run over or whatever. So depending on whatever one you pick, one of those optional events in the original game maybe can play out. And then obviously that would be a point to replay it. I don't really think that will happen exactly, but just random ideas. But no, I'm excited to see Wutai and like if we will see it at nighttime. Day-night cycle. I don't think if that was like confirmed or not confirmed about that being possible.
What they said about day-night cycle was that, and this was what Hamaguchi said in Max's room, and it was that there will be times when day and night are shown, but it's not going to be something that's organic to the exploration.
Yeah.
So we'll probably see everything at night sometimes, but it'll be for story reasons.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm excited to see Wutai at night. Just like similar to Remake with was it not the slums, where the Honeybee Inn is, where the forget the name. Wall Market, thank you. Yeah. Like Wall Market, like walking into Wall Market in Remake, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so cool with all the lights and the sound effects and all the people and just all the different things. I can't wait to see what Wutai will be and if nighttime is an option and maybe at night they'll have like extra lanterns out or something, depending where it would be. But that's the huge thing, I guess, that I would say, because you guys have already said a lot of things with like Yuffie and whatnot. I do think we're gonna say something. Wait,
Happy Turtle nightlife would be amazing.
Like people out drinking, partying, like, and then in the morning you see like one guy on the street.
I bet that's where we find that singer from Calm, the Midgar Blues guy. I bet we find him in the Happy Turtle.
Yeah, he's
gonna be singing.
He's out there. He's like, God damn it, man! I used to be somebody. Now I'm gonna fucking die because of this stupid rocket.
It's happening.
It's happening.
He has a new song. Maybe he's like, I wrote this song for the end of the world, and he's out there singing it, and people are like throwing money on it or something.
He's just gonna sing that like that hardcore metal version of Hollow that they re-released.
Yeah.
It's gonna be
man.
That's how it gets incorporated in there.
Yeah, I was
Just
surprised
jamming
that
out.
I will admit I was surprised that didn't show up in the trailers because
Hmm.
it came
I
out like a
know,
week
yeah.
before,
A week before,
and it's
yeah.
just like, whoa, this is really different, you know, and like the way that. So I was a little surprised, but I'm confident that it'll appear again. But um, yeah. So I mean, like that brings up so we know that in Intergrade we had that weird little guy that was just like, I'm a mini Turtles Paradise, you know, and he was kind of where during the intermission DLC you did most of your side questing. You would exchange your turtle tokens with him so that you get your turtle things. Um, it seems to me like that's probably kind of going to be like a mini game hub, right? It's going to I mean, it's weird because the gold saucer will still probably exist and still be a source of mini games, but then we'll have this other gold saucer thing. I wonder if we have this other, you know, like a Wutai specific if you know like the you know, maybe the four levels of the pagoda, you know, sort of
Mm.
happen through, you know, mini games revolving around, you know, the turtle paradise. And you know, there's a bunch of different stuff that they can do with that. But um you know, like that's again where this is just taking up so much space. How is this game not going to be 3 times the size of Rebirth, you know, when we're looking at an opening area and it looks like
Mhm.
that, you know? And so I am curious how they fit it all in. I hope they do. You know, to me, the Wu Tai lore is really interesting because it, like we talked about, it's kind of this foil to uh, Western culture in the Gaian world, right? So it's sort of,
Yeah.
they're all caricatures, you know, and so this is a caricature of Eastern culture versus Western culture. But we got new lore stuff about the region from Ever Crisis that I hope they touch on. De Chow, you know, who is the big statue thing. It turns out that that's, you know, he's sort of reverenced as a singular monolithic deity. He moves in mysterious ways. We learned that T'Chau was part of like a group of warriors that were Cetra that held off like a
Mm.
Genova infection about 1500 years prior to the events of Final Fantasy VII, and in that it there was a resurgence of that 500 years prior, and that's where Masamune came from, you know, and who is this expert swordsmaker. And so there's all this weird Cetra lore that can come out of this, you know, and so I hope we get a chance to explore that. And then again, you know, like there's this way of, they found this way of living that isn't as harmful to the environment. You know, there's
Mhm.
more harmony with nature, but they still sort of succumb to Shinra. And it sounds like, there's disagreements internally on how they acquiesced to Shinra. And, there's just a ton of ways to explore like the meat of the messaging of Final Fantasy VII in Wutai that I'm really excited about. Um, so we've kind of gone there, and we skipped a little bit because I did want to talk about Mediel. And um, you know, in the structure of OG really puts the live stream sequence, which is where Cloud kind of comes back in like the final third of the game. And it's sort of like the climax of the game. How do we fit that sequence, which is sort of like the emotional core? It's where most of the messaging comes from. It's where like the identity of Final Fantasy VII happens. That's gonna, I mean, that necessarily kind of happens early now, right? Like, to the point where we see Cloud in Wutai with like about 4,000 HP. So it's probably like
Mm.
the like that when we see Cloud in Wutai, it's probably because we've finished the main Wutai arc, gone back and got Cloud, right? You know, something has caused that. So let's talk about Mediel. Let's talk about the live stream sequence and how we might see that change, how we might see that provide more context, in the meta sense, like we have these lingering Zack spirits. We have Cloud struggling with whether or not Aerith is dead. We've got all that stuff. How does that get resolved in the live stream sequence? That's for a certain segment of the fandom. That's one of the most sacred scenes. It's one of the ones that if you touch it at all, you're going to get the most pushback from a certain segment of the fans. For sure. How do they address something like that? So Nico, I want to hear from you on this again.
So I think an interesting thing about the live stream sequence in particular is that I wouldn't be surprised if this is one of the things that ends up getting it changed a lot, because we literally get introduced in Rebirth. Tifa falls into the live stream, and we actually get the scenes that would have taken place in the live stream sequence in Rebirth, specifically with her remembering her time with Cloud and them as kids. Like, we get a lot of that actually in that game. And then we all thought we're like, what the fuck? We're getting this now? Huh? Like, and it's a powerful scene. I love that scene. It's one of my favorite scenes in Rebirth.
Sure.
But it did lead me then go, okay, we're putting this here. Why are we doing that? And it sort of just makes me go, well, what we're planning for, like, to me, I look at it as, well, we want to still include this, right? This is still obviously an important, significant thing, but means that we're planning something very different in part 3. Like, and I'm like, does that mean they're not falling in the live stream together? Are they gonna have Cloud realize who he is in other ways? And it sort of makes sense potentially how they could do that, because this isn't just, I think, Cloud realizing like the idea of who he was and who he is in the sense of what the original game was. This is extending to something beyond that basically building up to the purpose of what the remake series is, right? Us building towards an idea of not just Cloud being like, yes, this is a young boy who got basically fucked over, lost like 2 years of his life, and essentially is all jacked up from Genova juice. And, Zack was actually there that day. This is who you really are. This is going to, I think, extend further into the theories of like, well, why does Cloud have this empty materia at the end of Rebirth?
Mm-hmm.
Why are story elements so different from the original? What are we actually building towards? What is the big actual mystery that ties this entire remake series together? I think that is where that is all going to come together in a way that I'm just praying. I'm praying to God that this is going to lead to a moment of like that we all felt, because that we all felt when we first saw that moment of like Cloud picking up Sephiroth and chucking his dumb ass into the fucking live stream, Like, I want to get that feeling in a new way, right? I want like something that's going to make us go, oh my God, holy shit. It was right in front of us the whole time. Oh my God, like what the fuck? And nothing, we didn't see it coming. We are all just so like dumbfounded, and it's beautiful. It gets us emotional. We're all just like, God damn it, Hamaguchi. God damn it, Nojima, you motherfuckers. We're all just peak cinema, have our arms up in the air. I think that is what they're going for. And they're so confident too in when seeing them describe this, that like they're building towards something meaningful. So like, I don't even know, to be honest, of like how I can actually like part of me almost doesn't even want to know of like how can I picture this? How can I foresee where they're going to take this story when like so much of like the elements, this is like the titular scene, the titular moment. Will it happen in the live stream? Will it happen in a new, different way? Maybe Zack will be there. My hope is still that Tifa.
That Tifa is the one that leads. Okay.
I still want Tifo to be significant, because I think that is just incredibly important. Is that Tifa be the one to help bring Cloud back? Because I think that's always been sort of the backbone to who Cloud is, to his story, is that his tie to Tifa is essentially what grounds him. It's what makes him it makes him a human. It's what makes him who he is too, right? Why does it, when he's always like wigging out and stuff, like what ends up bringing him back is Tifa, is those memories of him as a kid, is remembering that part of him that is sort of like being repressed, right? Like, so I want to see that. I think Tifa is important to it. I don't know if Zach will be included in that way. I don't know if we're gonna, also have Aerith there in some way to help make him remember that what maybe really happened at the end of Rebirth. And maybe that's part of it. Maybe that's why that's being set up that way, is that Aerith can then be a part of it in that way, and in some way of him acknowledging what happened and saying goodbye to her, right? There had to be a reason they decided to end Rebirth in this very kind of like confusing manner, like, and I feel all of that is building up to.
Yeah.
I think that Hamaguchi and Nojima and Katase and all of them, I think they want that moment to still be the resounding, like, this is the moment we're all gonna remember at the end of this, just like it was in the original, where we're all just like, it hits like a truck. You see that for the first time in the original, it just hits you like, oh my god, it's beautiful, and I hope we get something like that here.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, and because there's this subtext of all of this new live streamy context, that
Yeah.
is it appropriate for them to address it here? And does it kind of suck out some of the juice for the rest of the story if it's all front loaded in the first third of this, potentially 200-hour game?
Yeah.
And we know for a fact that Zack is going to be more in this game than he was in Rebirth. Like, that's a statement that Hamaguchi has made before. I mean, he actually made it to me at one point, and like this is this floating thing. If we really think that all of these worlds, these multiple multiverses are in the live stream, and we're going into something called the live stream sequence, will it feel disjointed if there aren't echoes and references to the fact that we might have all these background live stream players, that are doing stuff in the live stream, and these worlds that are getting eaten, as part of the live stream. So yeah, there's a lot of pressure riding on that scene, and it's also where we kind of get to see, the real Cloud. And like you said, it's the first time we get to see the actual events of Nibelheim. And like you said, like for me, and it's sort of been spoiled already. Like they said, please play Crisis Core Reunion. And during Crisis Core Reunion, we see Cloud, like 16-year-old, non-Genovified, just a human Cloud, with all of his insecurities, body Superman, and throw him into, and that's a really cool moment. And
it's so rad. This little boy is just like, man, you fucking destroyed my town.
Yeah. It's so cool. It's so metal. And it's like, it's where he first finds the real source of his strength. And it isn't said in this cheesy way before he does an Omni/version 5 like he does in I cherish everything, like it's way less cringe. And so like they got to pull that off again, but they're pulling it off at like 1/3 into this story, and so that's tough. That's tough to really pull that off. So I'm wondering if they find a way to kind of pull that out. And then also, like, by the time that Cloud is back to Wutai and back with the party, like it strains plausibility that the party would let him hang around him if he doesn't, display a portion of sanity, like that he understands what really happened to Aerith, that he understands, that he was a puppet of Sephiroth this whole time. So that has to happen fairly soon. So does something replace that? in terms of the hype moment, you know, and in the final third of the game. And we've seen, like we said, we've seen nothing of that. Jordan, what are your complex thoughts on this? And then we'll go over to Profnoctis, aka Wade.
I got a lot.
Yeah.
Based off what you asked and what Nico was talking about, and then also some stuff about how we could maybe see scenes from Rebirth with Aerith popping back up. But I think I agree with you, Nico, with like how it should be formatted, and that I, on one hand, I would like to see and assume that it will still be Tifa like focused, because like that's how it was in the original game, and that's like a huge part of the game. And having extra people there might like take away from the scene. But on the other hand, the reason I would think maybe it will be changed a lot is because, like Clark, you're saying, with it being so early, it's like they either move it, but then how would that line up with everything else happening, or the other scene that they would push later into the game to emphasize and change a lot more, or focus solely on Tifa, would be the Highwind scene, maybe, because that's like a big part. So making the live stream scene, obviously Tifa would be still involved, but maybe having more people there would maybe make more sense with like where it is in the story. And then from doing that later on in the game, they can shift that big moment to the Highwind scene and make that even maybe more grandiose, and kind of take aspects from the live stream sequence and put it into that. I'm not really sure. I don't know if they could do it in a way that I would like or wouldn't like. I'm not saying like I necessarily have a preference, because I'm not writing the game and I definitely couldn't do it as good as they have. But that's like one thing I could think of how they could change it around, because of what we kind of know about it and where it would be so early on, so that it's not just like, okay, here's this really important scene in the beginning of the game, and now you have to do what you have to do, and then it ends. So yeah, I'd like to see both. I don't really know which one I'd prefer. We'll have to obviously see.
Yeah.
But I think the stuff with Aerith, and like if they do change the scene around, maybe potentially we could see stuff there. But something that I've been saying for a bit when I played the original game for the first time at the end of 2024, was that when we go back to the northern not the northern, oh my god, the Forgotten Capital, Forgotten City, whatever, with like Bugenhagen, I was thinking, and now I kind of think it might not happen anymore based off what you were saying, Nico. But going to the Forgotten Capital, you look at the orb when you're with everybody, and he's like, go underwater and look for some piece of whatever the hell it was. And you go back, and then you look into the orb, and then Aerith stuff plays. I was thinking for the longest time, like, oh, this is exactly where Cloud would be like, oh, this is what happened. Everyone will be able to see. Everyone will see Cloud's reaction. He'll see their reaction. He'll be like, what the hell? Like that's really what it was. And then we'll be able to see the burial scene and the things that people were upset that they didn't have in Rebirth.
That's actually a good point, dude. That's not a bad. That would not necessarily be a bad place to put that, because that is sort of still tied with what the original was, and the idea of like, yeah, that's not bad.
Because I played the original after Rebirth. I waited because a lot of my friends were like, you need to play it beforehand. I'm like, I'm new to FF7. Let me experience it how I want to. And I'm glad I did, because from playing Rebirth and then doing OG, I was like, there's so much Aerith stuff still after she dies. And from me not knowing going into Rebirth, it felt like, and from what I've seen online, it was like, she dies and then she's gone. She doesn't do anything else. And I'm like, she has such a critical role still in the rest of the game. And I was like, I don't think the changes they made necessarily even like take that away. I think it actually makes it even better, because they could put that scene directly there. Like I said, I don't really know where it would be, or like how they would present that, because, with all the things happening before it could get crazy and messy. But that's from when I got that scene, I was like, chat, clip it. This is where it will happen. So maybe there. I think that'd be cool. And then also back to like what I was saying with Zach, if Zach does meet up with everybody and he like takes the places as Cloud for a part of the game for combat specifically, but also story reasons, the team could be with Zach and be like, okay, here's how he acts, right? And then he could see how the team acts, and then they could compare that to Cloud when he was pre-reunion all crazy. And then when Zach maybe disappears. Yeah. And then if something happens to him and he disappears and Cloud comes back, then we as the player, then also as like the main cast, they can also see, okay, what was Cloud like before everything happened? How he compared himself to Zack? How did Zack talk about Cloud? And we get all these different varying things about these characters that could help them grow, and I think help Zack grow, because I'm
Mhm.
not the biggest Zack fan. I think he's kind of like the shonen pro tag, which that's what he is. That's what a lot of people agree on. So I think he's a bit
You're
boring,
correct
but
about that. Yeah.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
seeing that
Yeah. Zach is
would
mid as
give him a
hell.
lot
Yeah.
more depth. Would give him a lot more depth, because it's like, oh, we can actually like hear him talk to people, and not just go off what we know from Crisis Core. And
Yeah.
then that would also kind of also help Cloud grow, and us know about how Cloud has grown because of, seeing him and all these other things going on. But yeah, that's my thoughts.
You know what, I think one thing just to go off of that too is I think a lot of this game is going to basically fuck with us, because it's going to play off of our expectations of what we think is going to happen just based off of like the previous game and the original. Like I think they are going to be doing a lot of that. Like we're going to be like Max brought up an interesting point of like, what if we go and hear about this guy with a big sword or something, and he's over in Medeal or whatever, and we go there thinking we're going to see Cloud in a wheelchair, and it's actually Zack,
Yeah.
whether he's in a wheelchair or not, or maybe he's just looking around, and then we're like, wait a minute, what? Wait, where the fuck is Cloud? Where did he go? Like, I wouldn't honestly like, and going Clark, based on what you said, of like, well, are we going to hit this major point, right? This major point of getting Cloud back and all of that revelation, like only like a third into the game. And it's like, I wouldn't be surprised if this shit gets moved back a lot. Like maybe Cloud doesn't just like disappear and then Tifa finds him and stays with him. Like maybe we just don't, we're like, where the fucker go? Where'd this bitch go? Where is he? Like he's not even in the deal. Like he's like, he's out here like going to Target and doing a shopping list for Sephiroth or something. I don't know. He's like, yeah, you need this and this for blowing up the world. Let's do this. Like he's out here like doing more things for Sephiroth. Like I think so much of this and like the fact,
I love
that,
it,
like
but that would be crazy.
Just imagining that, like essentially they've set us up, right? They've had game releases. They had Reunion get released. Crisis Core Reunion released, and like basically like spoiled seemingly like Cloud's big awakening. So it's like, why would they do that? Like I think they're doing this literally to fuck up our expectations, to divert us to like, all right, well, this is how it's gonna go, just so they can make us go, oh no, it isn't actually. It's actually completely different, So I think sort of going off what you guys are saying is like, yeah, I think there's very potential that this story is just going to go in ways that we just didn't even imagine.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, before we go over to Wade, that isn't, you're bringing up great points. Like what if they pulled like once again to, bring up like The Last of Us, and there has been instances where they've like put fake stuff in trailers to like, I mean, I can't see them doing that, like, but maybe I'm selling them short. Like that'd be wild if if they like edited in, they like Photoshop the HP totals and Wu-Tai down, and like we don't have Cloud for like most of the game. That'd be wild. Yeah. Good
Cloud
thinking.
fucking dies, dude. He's not even in this game.
This is yeah. That'd be silly, and I love it. I want them to get a little weird. They got to do something. Like it's really hard to carry, the messaging of like, because the live stream sequence did a lot of heavy lifting. Like that was the thing you did.
Yeah.
Like it was live stream sequence, and then a little bit of expo, but that really did like a bunch of the emotional heavy lifting, and to do that at 1/3 is tough. So I want to hear from Wade, and then we can, if you guys want to start the audience questions, if you want to start sending them, feel free to send them with tags or super chats or however you want to get my attention, I will try and kind of end with that, and then I'll give each of my contestants, each of my guests a chance to answer a question as we like get sort of to the wrap up phase of this podcast. So Wade, take us out on this topic, and then we'll start looking at some audience questions.
The most captivating line in Rebirth to me was when Sephiroth tells Cloud, "Those with clouded eyes will never see the truth." And so the live stream sequence for me has always been, at least in the Remake trilogy, I've been anticipating it as this moment when Cloud's eyes are going to be unclouded and he's going to be able to see the nature of reality. Now, we think that we've seen that nature of reality when he was world surfing with Sephiroth at the end of Rebirth, right? Seeing all of these different possibilities and stuff. But the possibility that I've really been considering for Revelation is that I think it's going to separate Cloud's identity crisis from what's going on with the planet. Because there's really, in this retelling, two identity crises going on: Cloud's identity crisis and then the planet's identity crisis. Because the planet, because of Sephiroth's intervention, is just as fractured in its understanding as Cloud is, or what we understand Cloud to be. And so I do think that the first half of the Medial live stream sequence is going to be about resolving Cloud. I think it's going to flow in an expanded form, but pretty closely to the original, of Tifa being the live stream Sherpa of sorts, to be like, let me guide you through all of these things. I think that the breakdown moments are when are going to happen in the Northern Crater when Sephiroth shows what actually happened. Like, hey, you weren't there in Nibelheim. And Cloud has this breakdown, and Tifa's a little silent or timid about that. But I think that there's going to be other things. Like, you realize she died at the Forgotten Capital, right? I think Sephiroth is going to show him that in that moment. And then the live stream segment is still going to be Tifa kind of pulling things together for him. What actually did happen. And once Cloud has that actualization, that's where I think that the two of them still in the live stream may be able to have this understanding that the planet is suffering from a similar fragmentation. Kind of like just like Cloud's memories have been mixed, the live stream is struggling with these overlapping possibilities. And one of the things that I've talked about since Remake, and the devs in a few interviews had kind of talked about this as well, is that the nature of predestination begins to get muddied when the providence is taken away. The providence meaning the deity or the life stream's preference of what is to happen. And with the advent of the whispers really gaining, being transformed at the end of Remake, I think that the preferences of the live stream have been muddled. And so to see the collateral damage in the live stream of what's happening, Cloud now fully actualized is going to be able to see it. That's one thought that I kind of have. And I think that's where we're going to get that voiceover where Cloud rejoins the party and he says, as he does in the trailer, the planet's in crisis. It has been for a while. I think that he's telling what he saw in the live stream. It's like, we thought it was just about me, but even Aerith said, this is about saving the planet and you, right? Now he understands that other part, that part of saving the planet demanded himself being actualized. The other thing that I think about the pacing of the game, in one of the interviews, I believe Hamaguchi said that there is not necessarily going to be the same level of linearity to this game as in previous games. And I'm curious if, similar to the original game, you can traverse the world as Tifa or even as Cid for that brief time that he's the captain of the party, before you head to Medial and enact those next things. And so I'm wondering if, similar to how the side quest dialogue would change depending on if you had gone to Cosmo Canyon or not. Red's voice would change. I wonder if there is a contingency plan for, have you done all of these things before you've gone to Medeal? And that would necessitate multiple playthroughs. You can do these side quests, or you can maybe do these entire continents with or without Cloud before you go on the critical path. I think that would be a really interesting thing, because I loved spending as much time as I could as both Tifa and then as Sid as the party leader, just because it was different. And on multiple playthroughs, I was like, how many things can I do and how many interactions can I have as these primary characters?
We know that player choice will have these functions that create missable segments, right? And so, and I do think that the most straightforward way that happens is by having us choose who our party leader is in lieu of Cloud. And so I think you're definitely onto something with that. And I just want to say that for the record, I do think if I were to put money on it, that where Cloud learns that Aerith really died is in the Whirlwind Maze / Northern Crater. And it's how Sephiroth finally breaks him. It causes his psyche to crash, and that's where we get the fight. Is that he just sort of loses himself completely. He loses his will, and that's when Sephiroth is able to... because Sephiroth has made it incredibly clear that the strongest... Yes, his food is Jenova's food, and Jenova's food is despair. It is the thing that gives him power. And so creating this moment of despair, I think that's what ultimately causes the Sephiroth team up, is that Cloud finally realizes the truth of Aerith's fate. He breaks. That's when that fight happens. And it may include some of that bizarre, like, muffled voice stuff and like pretending to be Aerith stuff, like, I think that's probably how that goes. And then it will ultimately be Tifa that pulls him out, in the live stream, and that will probably stay fairly intact. Zach is the wild card in that for me too. So I 100% agree. I'm getting a collection of really good questions that I'm putting to the side. I just want to, before we get to the 2 hour, and if you guys are fine keeping going, we'll keep going. But I did want to just address one thing very specific to you. This is going to feel like a side quest, but you did just release a video about the Book of Revelation and how it ties. I did. You and I are both we're both religion, mythology nerds. You happen to be a little bit more focused on on the Abrahamic side of things and Christendom in particular. What do you think about the Book of Revelation, and how it might relate to Final Fantasy VII Revelation? And I'll collect some questions for us from the audience. And
we'll sure. I mean, you can watch my video. It's a 10-minute, hopefully easy watch, though it's kind of dense. I talk kind of fast in it. But what I can say is that the Book of Revelation, it comes from the Greek word apocalypsis, which simply means revealing and unveiling. And so we oftentimes talk about Revelation as kind of synonymous for end times, and that's not necessarily the case. It is the moment of things being revealed and resolved, which is perfect with some of the interview answers that we're getting from Hamaguchi. The biggest thing that got me thinking about all of this was that stack of robed creatures or robed figures, all reaching out toward a very angelic Sephiroth, a one-winged angel holding the lifeless Cloud. But to me, the flow of the Book of Revelation specifically is talking about how do world powers rise to power, and how are they endured by the, quote, faithful, or those that are living in those difficult times. The Book of Revelation and apocalyptic literature in general are not about future telling as much as they are what do we do when the world gets really dark and when it gets really damaging. It's the story of the now and the not yet, and how did we get here. It's not about a blueprint of what will happen and such day. That's not any apocalyptic literature. That's a whole other realm.
Yeah.
And so to understand Final Fantasy VII Revelation as apocalyptic literature is pretty darn easy, because you've got the meteor in the sky, and some of the imagery is almost one-to-one. Beasts coming from the earth, from the sea, these monsters that are indiscriminate in their destruction. That sort of thing is rife in the book of Revelation. And so that was kind of my starting point for the whole thing. But ultimately, apocalyptic literature, and it looks like Final Fantasy VII Revelation as well, are about hope. And it's about, what do you do when the world goes to crap and when hell literally opens up and begins to swallow up the world? What does that mean for world entities, for world leaders, when you can't trust governments, when you can't trust each other or even your own perceptions? Because perception leads to deception sometimes. So what do you do with clear-mindedness to walk into a future that is hopeful?
Damn.
Sorry, that just kind of rattled off. I was
Yeah,
like,
no, this is you dropping bars there.
My man, spitting, man.
Yeah.
That was great.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you guys, my contestants, think of one question you want to ask before we leave this, and I'm going to do some audience questions. Are you guys all good to keep going, by the way?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's a good question from Vincenzo Cassetti. What's everyone's preference about whether or not AC anchors the ending? Like, is anyone fine with it getting written out? I'll answer first. I am fine either way. I'm fine with it, somehow just leading to it, or linking to it. But I would prefer that it link to it, in a more creative way than just lead to it. As far as it being written out completely, I would either want it to be somehow like playable as a post game thing, or elements of it to show up in the game. Like, I really want the outfit and the fusion sword somehow. Like, just find a way to get that shit in the game without me having to mod it in, or without it being modded in. Not by me. I would never do that. Square Enix, if you're listening. I really want to see that. I think a lot of people want to see that, and it feels like a way to really fit the compilation in. So I'm not ultra attached. What about you guys? Let's start with Jordan.
Yeah, same way. I originally, I think, was always like, I want it to link right up. Like, I want it to be just like the original, and remake the game. Like, that's what it is. But after Rebirth and like thinking about it more, I'm like, yeah, I kind of want it to. It could link up, but also, like, cover things that happen in it, or at least not make it obsolete. But I don't know. I like how you said it. I want things to occur in the game that kind of, I don't know the wording for it. 'Cause not link up directly to, like, to the start of it, but just
Reminisce from it. Yeah.
yeah. Like, I don't wanna finish the game and then be like, "Okay, well, now I should go watch Advent Children to see, like, where the rest of it goes." Like, I don't wanna feel like that, because then it's like, "Okay, why did we do the whole remake thing?" Well, there's reasons, but, like, to a degree, it would feel kinda pointless to just have it go straight into that, so I would like a mix. But I'm not really set, like you said, on either way. I just wanna see, the vision that they had played out, and as long as it's what they wanted, and, I might like it, I might dislike it, but I'm more so just excited to see what they do, because 'cause I'm sure they'll mess around with it a little bit, so it should be interesting regardless.
Yeah. Nico.
So I'm definitely in the camp of like, I absolutely feel that unless they're planning to make a remake Advent Children or something, which I kind of hope not. I hope it's not like they're like, all right, we're done. Now let's make either a new movie or like a game based on the movie. It's like, I think if that isn't like in the cards or something, then I think, yeah, absolutely, man. Put Advent Children shit in this game. Give us the fucking fusion sword. Give us, I don't know, give us the cool motorbike. Give us the outfits. Like, give us scenes. Like, have us reenact scenes or something from the original. Maybe have us like fucking reenact and show like, dude, how cool would it be if, like, all right, well, we gotta explain how we tutorialize like fighting the weapons. What if it was like, all right, let's do that with us fighting Sin Bahamut or something, like from
Yeah.
Advent Children, where everyone's like chucking fucking Cloud into the sky, like, and they show off like some crazy synergy ability where we're all working together in that way. Like the idea, like, I think, yeah, things like that being inserted into this game, because I think that that is what Hamaguchi and the team, they want this game to be, is like the epic, crazy send-off that it brings everything from all of the compilation stuff, all of the fiction, everything coming together into this final game. I think that that should be here in some way that celebrates all parts of FF7. And I think my personal hope is that this game acts as the true end for like Cloud and his story, and it doesn't necessarily lead to, you know, Advent Children and space cancer, and like, you know, it's like, well, Sephiroth's still around. I know, this bitch just refuses to die. It's like, no, I want him to actually meet his end here. I want this to actually be the finality, the idea that this was all built, everything in all of the FF7 compilation, everything, all these stories was building towards actually this moment, right? The idea that this is actually not just a spicy remake, but an actual, like, sort of semi-sequel that leads to a final, like, and then did they live happily ever after? I don't know, man. Whether it's happily ever after or not, whether it's just simply like, hey, we have now hit the culmination and the finality to our story where Sephiroth is gone, and now maybe we can find some moment of peace. Something like that, you know, just that feeling of like, this is the end of at least the story of these characters.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bro said it beautifully. I agree.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, what do you think, Wade? How do you want this to, is it just a spicy remake? And then just Advent Children just totally happened? And we're not going to see the fusion sword and the outfit?
Okay, so I want it to link up directly leading into Advent Children. I'm shameless in that. I personally want that. But what I would love for it to do, even as the first two games already have done, I would love for it to reframe certain things. I think that post Forgotten Capital, like Jordan said, it might, if in the Forgotten Capital return, we begin to get this communication with Aerith and or Zack, it might frame better some of those sequences where Aerith and Zack are speaking to Cloud and Advent Children. I would love, as an epilogue to the game, to Revelation, to have a proper sort of 2 years later sort of thing, kind of a walkabout epilogue, almost similar to Metaphor Refantasio, where you're going around after the Great Conflict to see what life is kind of like. It could introduce Denzel. It could introduce some of the elements of the books, the Turk side story, On the Way to a Smile, and all that kind of stuff. You're going to get some of those things, even some framework for Rufus, who is recovering, right? I think that would be good, and that's where you could introduce some of that fusion sword, and then maybe even Advent Children aesthetic. It could even be a delivery game, right? Like Crazy Taxi, because you've got Strife delivery service, right? I mean, which would certainly make sense given that Aerith says to Cloud during the flower delivery quest in Remake, he says, "I'm not cut out for this stuff," and she says, "Oh, one day you'll be brimming with orders and delivering." So that would be a nice bookend in Revelation to actually have a side quest doing that.
So
I would love that kind of stuff.
Believe it or not, I really like that, and I think there is a game that has done that really well, and that was God of War Ragnarok. I think God of War Ragnarok's post game was really good. Well. It was really good, and I would love to see a post game that maybe is a little bit before Advent Children. You know, that kind
give me that
kind of talks about, and you know, like I would even argue that the God of War Ragnarok's second ending was more profound than its main one, but that was because they did this really good setup with the riddle and you know, and what the answer to the riddle was. I would be really okay with that too. You know, that said, we do have some things that necessarily are going to change the structure of how we get
Yeah.
there. And that in the form of deep ground. We know for a fact we're going back to deep ground, and we're going to have deep ground characters. The deep ground continuity is already affected, right? And so
Yeah.
will this lead like more spiritually to an Advent Children that kind of exists? I think I can see that as being something that's sort of like a reasonable mix between, you know, sort of like this insane, completely overwrite, you know, the legacy of Advent Children and Dirge.
Yeah.
You know, something that kind of splits the difference. And I think that's probably what we're gonna see is something that splits the difference. Okay.
Well, one of the
yeah.
things I wanted to say this really quick, you know, one of the pieces of the hero's journey that really matters and is kind of like dismissed a lot is that return home. And the home is always different than when you first left it. And part of that is the inner journey that you've kind of had. What you discover throughout the course of this series is that, like you said earlier, Genova feeds on despair. And there is this constant awareness of how am I unclouding my eyes? How am I avoiding despair so I'm not susceptible to the same old tricks of perception and deception? And I think that that is where Advent Children says we have to remain vigilant in that. This was not a one-time only kind of calamity or a crisis. This is an ongoing crisis. And so what are we doing as a society, as a community, and personally to overcome those things to ensure that we're not overtaken again?
Mm-hmm.
If we do that and we're able to frame that narrative beautifully, then I'm totally fine with that going into Advent Children.
Guys, give me a quick second. I'm just gonna be right back. I can hear everything you guys are saying. Okay,
Yeah, go for it. So, you know, there's some people in chat that are saying that like an epilogue before AC would be kind of a downer, though. If you tied it to AC, I think it'd have to be after AC's events. Where I think that would really work, if we're going to do that, is if it turns out that, you know, this future site that is clearly, you know, it's clearly built into the function of both Aerith and Sephiroth's character in a way that it just straight up was not before. It was not. You cannot gaslight me into thinking that, oh, it was always this way. We just didn't see it. Like, you know, if there is some kind of payoff to that, you know, if the payoff to, you know, this sort of rewrite has an actual external cause that happens outside of the loop of experienced events, it would have to happen after AC. It would have to happen after Dirge, right? So like future Sephiroth and future like, you know, whatever led to this sort of like really, you know, the completely dilapidated Midgar in, you know, the 500 years later thing, you know, some series of events there would sort of be like a culminating event for why we have so much more, well, juice in our game. So it's that kind of bootstrap thing. So where does the bootstrap start? And it would most likely start after experienced events if they're, you know, trying to at least be vaguely consistent, which, you know, they're under no obligation to do. But you know, I think nobody's going to argue that part of the function of this game's existence is to wrap up all of the compilations, lore, all of the legacy of Final Fantasy VII into one game, right? And so, and what has been promised by Hamaguchi is an ending that is satisfying. And, you know, and I really liked the OG's ending. I found it to be a satisfying ending, but we're now at this point of cultural and fandom awareness that just a one-to-one remake of that ending is not going to be satisfying to everybody. And Hamaguchi has said as much. Like, he responds to the question of how are you going to not let down fans who are expecting something different? He responds to that question with, it's going to be satisfying. So he's already really taken off one-to-one ending off the table, you know, and also there's pretty hardcore confirmation of post game, content. Post-game content
Genesis.
does yes, Genesis. Yeah. Post-game content is incompatible with the ending of the original Final Fantasy VII. Because we don't even know. Like, what does that mean? You run around with Red 13 and his kids 500 years later? Like, that would be the only way that's consistent, which, upon reflection kind of goes hard. But, so there is another question.
Listen, for years, I always thought humanity was gone. And I thought, what a beautiful ending about the planet and its will to survive.
Yeah.
Extinguish the perpetrators.
I have another question, and I know that NicoB is doing weird stuff back there somewhere, but he can hear everything and he can't talk back, so I'm gonna call him out. But let's see. Okay. We've talked about Genesis. Genesis is obviously a big deal. It very likely to show up maybe just as a super boss, but I would like to see some actual lore. But here there is something that I do want to talk about, and that was asked by somebody in chat, but chat's been going real hard, especially on YouTube. YouTube guys, thanks for showing up. By BB Bumblebee. How do you think all the whole rift in the sky thing will resolve? What purpose can it even serve now? That is one thing I was like, where the fuck is the sky rift? Right? Like it's just meteors here now. That's the rift in the sky. Does that rift in the sky show up again? And like what that felt like to me always, like early on, regardless of what people might think on the internet, like very early on, I have been like, oh, that's representative of the line in the sky and the clouds mine live stream sequence. Like that's what that looks like. Do you think that's really all that we're going to see it in? Or do you think it has some other thing? And it also kind of, like there's a lot of celestial imagery that's interesting. Nico pointed this out on a tweet. And I think some of us noticed is like the perspective of that galaxy is now seemed to have shifted. And the way that I perceive that is, the first time we see that galaxy, it's like edge of creation, and we're on this surface of maybe meteor. A lot of us have speculated it's like a, non-fiery meteor, that we're seeing it from that side. And now that we're seeing it from the planet's perspective, it's flipped. Like we were at the edge, now we're here. And there's a lot of edge stuff that's built into the themes of FF7 that we could get into later.
You just hit me with something that maybe
go for it.
You're
back just in time.
Yeah, I'm just like, so yeah, what if that is? So okay, so a few things. I noticed this because I just last night was like, I want to go back and watch 7 seconds to the end. I love that scene, And I went back and watched it, and I was like looking at the thing, like the edge of creation. He's looking out at this big thing that we've now sort of seen from Revelation and looked at and been like, that looks kind of like the silhouette of like Sephiroth's final form. But I realized, the thing is flipped when he looks at it, and it's the same thing even when they showed in Ever Crisis when Sephiroth is standing there looking up at it. When we see it in Revelation, it's actually flipped horizontally. So it's almost like we're on the other side of something looking in. And it's also interesting, by the way, because you actually see when they're on the other side looking outward towards, like they're on the edge of creation looking out, you also see that's something you do not see at the start of Revelation, which is a little green star down in the corner, which I'm almost like, is that meant to be Gaia? Maybe like that's like we're so fucking far away, we're over here, and then that Gaia's way the hell over there. But anyway, so you said something, and I went, yeah, what if it is that we're staying on the surface of meteor? But what if it's so like Sephiroth literally says, like, we will become a part of it one day. What if he literally means this thing that we're standing on, meteor, will become a part of it one day? It's going to crash into Gaia.
Yeah.
It's going to become a part of it someday, but I will not end. Like, what if that means like literally, that's where we are. Like maybe this meteor or thing, something that we're summoning this time is like some celestial thing that is beyond just a big fucking rock, that's just gonna hit the planet. Like it represents something more extensive. Like this coming together, this coalescing of worlds or something. Maybe it represents something more beyond that. That's again, like I feel like so much of it has not really been detailed because I've still had this same lingering question of like, if Sephiroth is assuming that his motivations are what we have sort of pieced together, that he's like, I want a world without death and such, right? Then what's the purpose of him summoning Meteor in this game, right? What is summoning the big rock as it comes down and inflicts such a deadly blow to the planet? Like, what is it he's actually trying to do in summoning Meteor? So,
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of that ties together, and that's like I don't know. Yeah, what purpose, if I'm assuming not reading too much into it, if that is the edge of creation is them literally standing on the surface of Meteor or something, and him saying this will become a part of our planet. We will become a part of it one day. Maybe like, what does that mean? Why would this need to become a part of it? What is that actually accomplishing? I don't know. Just the thought of that made me kind of go like, thinking about it. So
yeah, I love it. Do you guys have answers to that? And where's the Sky Rift?
Yeah, where is it?
They fly through it when they go to space. And
Yeah.
Cloud's like, guys, don't go there.
I like it. I think it signifies kind of the broken world that Cloud is existing in and looking in. I think that it's probably that simple. But as far as the meteor thing, I think that you're spot on, Nico. I think that to some degree, Meteor may be representative of the world that Sephiroth is trying to bring forward. And it is demanding a catastrophe and a complete annihilation of the world that is. And so he's utilizing Cloud to kind of bring that. Cloud is able to see all of these myriad possibilities of things and side with Sephiroth in order to bring these things. That would kind of be my thought in that. I think that that's probably why we see at the edge of creation that image now reversed in Revelation, and then the red behind Cloud. It's like we are bringing this sweeping destruction toward the planet this way. So I don't know. I'm very curious about that. I'm also curious about the 7 seconds. To the end there. Certainly some 7 imagery of creation, of completion and perfection, but in the perfect amount of time, this is going to happen. So
I almost feel like him saying 7 seconds to the end is going to be literally building up to the final moments of like,
I think
literally
so.
like the very end of the game is like, you have 7 seconds to make a choice, Cloud, or something that's going to decide the fate of everybody. And it's like, that's time enough, but what are you going to do with those 7 seconds? Like, what is that going to, and that's going to be like, I think it's almost like Sephiroth seeing what his destination is, what his goal is, and being like, I know already how this is going to play out because everything has been, set into motion by me. Like, with the only person maybe who could stop me being Aerith, and maybe he's already taken care of her at this point. So it's like, it's kind of like, it's building to something that we're all just kind of guessing, grasping at, but trying to understand what that could be. But until we get there, it's going to be like, ooh, I don't know. It just gets me excited.
I know, I'm excited too. Do you have anything on that one, Jordan?
I was replying to someone saying that shout out to Eliza's parents for raising him on FF7. Not my parents.
We're
My
your
stepbrother got
parents
me into
now.
Final Fantasy. Yeah, Wade. People have said me and Wade. Wade looks like my dad, so it's all coming together here
That's
on the show.
We're both your dad. Don't ask questions about it. Happy Pride Month.
That's true.
But yeah, I like what you guys are saying about it. Yeah, I think someone might have mentioned it when at dinner at SGF a week and a half ago, whatever, that like Sephiroth wants to be the hero, and that like when the meteor's about to
Yeah.
strike, he'll suck it up or whatever. Which could be interesting, and that would obviously be different. But yeah, I don't really have anything to, I
Oh
guess,
my
different or
God. That is
that's
such
from what
a
you guys said.
that's such a good point. Okay. So I
I can't take credit for that, by the way.
but still, like, okay. So one thing that's been bothering me, I know I'm sidetracking us and I'm the guy that's supposed to not do that, but one thing that's bothered me is there was this thing that Nomura said when Magic came out, is he talked about the his drawing of Safer Sephiroth. And he was like, this new depiction is a little bit of a clue to what you might see in the third part of the remake trilogy. And there is a notable difference, and it seems silly, but he's got more arms. He's got both arms and his wings. And he's looking so smug. So something that is interesting is that what if this is, like his big end game reveal is about him becoming more powerful. Like his whole thing is he's clearly shown that he has context of his own defeat. He has that showdown in the beginning, at the end of Remake, the showdown where he matches the animation of his own death in OG, but he parries it. Not yet. He clearly has context. What if this time he absorbs Meteor? What if this time he actualizes the power for himself? And it's not about destruction, but it's about him. And what if his new form is a result of that? It's like an emanation of that. And I'm saying emanation very specifically for Wade, because the Sephiroth are the emanations in Kabbalah. They're the emanations of Ein Sof, right? So that's what they are. There's 10 of them. It's a whole thing. And we could talk. We could destroy this conversation with that. So
We
I
totally
love
derail
that.
it.
Totally
But
derail it. I love that idea. I wouldn't. I mean, it's clear we're gonna get like a more badass version of the Safer Sephiroth fight. He's gonna have more arms. It's gonna be crazy. What if that's how? What if that's why it's different? And if that did happen, yeah, like Advent Children's out the window in a direct sense. Like the way that Advent Children links is that it gives Sephiroth the knowledge and the context to have a different variant here. And so I do really think that, like, if we see that big, holy shit divergence, it's going to be right there. It's going to be with Safer Sephiroth, and so I'm hoping for the best with all of that. Yeah.
I do love the idea of having a Sephiroth that, especially in Revelation, we see how he fully came into understanding the will of the planet and how to divert from the preferred path of the planet, right? I would love to see that, and I think that assuming that power of a god by having that plan work would do it. I also really love that it calls back to the original Final Fantasy when it does become that, oh, we've done this before, and this is a loop, a cycle sort of thing. It doesn't necessarily mean that we had to have a Stranger of Paradise to tell that original story,
Yeah.
but it does mean there is something much bigger, and here this time is that final version of that fantasy.
Yeah. He said it.
Cake
He said
five.
the thing.
Yeah. It all makes sense now.
Amazing. And thanks everybody, by the way. That there's been a lot of good stuff coming in here. And okay, so it's been asked a couple times, and it's like kind of one of those other big deals, and it relates, I think, to this topic. So we're talking about like sky rifts, absorbing meteors, and like Sephiroth's new form because of a fucking magic card. The fact that Ever Crisis has him, like has his character development be this really interesting thing, and where we sort of see like this persona that he's built and building towards, and it's this ideal of a hero, and it's kind of narcissistic and grotesque. But one of the things that maybe points to him again having this even more context and power is we see like the most mysterious frame of the entire set of trailers. And it could just be because it's got that filter on it. Could just be like, a vision or a nightmare, but it's Sephiroth holding the white materia.
Yeah.
What's that shit about, guys? Answer at your will. Do whatever. Whoever wants to answer first.
I'm gonna say it's Sephiroth going like, yo, I don't know what the fuck I was thinking. I saw the white materia bounce off her head and land in the water. Why didn't I just go pick that shit up earlier?
Yeah.
God, I'm stupid. All right. So this time I'm gonna not be scared to get my feet wet, and I'm just gonna hop in the water and I'm gonna grab the white materia and then I'm gonna throw it in the trash can.
Yeah, we find out that
and then they
he
can't stop
swim.
me, and I win.
He can't swim. Sephiroth can't swim. That's the problem.
He can't swim. No, it's
His
like, no,
feathers
I
get
don't want to
wet.
get my little feet wet.
Yeah.
That's why
I
it
don't
burns
know, man.
things.
That to me is such a like we never see Sephiroth hold or interact with the white material like that.
Yeah.
And it has it did make me wonder, honestly, like he even acknowledges it, by the way. Like he sees like Cloud have the white material in his hand in Rebirth, and he goes, it's like, that doesn't belong here. That's not cool, bro. You're breaking the rules. And like,
Very
and
poor
I go
form.
like, yeah, I was in poor form. Like, what? So like, why doesn't he do something about that? Why doesn't he just like, can he not get rid of it? Is there some reason? Well, like, is it gonna lead to him? Maybe there's like a point where we're actually gonna have like a no hope scenario of like, oh, okay, the white materia that is meant to save us ends up getting acquired by Sephiroth in the end. And I don't know, man. Like it's like he clearly doesn't want it, right? He doesn't want it to be there. Otherwise, he wouldn't be like worried about it when Cloud has it. And it's like, so I don't know. I really that's to me when I saw that, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what is this indicating? Is it like a hallucination, or is he really getting it? Like, I don't know, man. That one's got me my head spinning of what that could even mean.
Well, when I saw it, I thought that it was kind of like, and maybe it's just because of my own perception of Sephiroth, but like it was almost a facsimile or a satire of the role of the white materia, right? The white materia is that salvation materia, holy materia that's going to bring about the salvation of the planet, but does not Sephiroth, especially from the Ever Crisis stuff, claim or seem to want to mitigate suffering. And so, but in some ways, he's trying to bring a pseudo salvation, I would say, in his mind, to the planet. The planet's will allows for there to be suffering. Sephiroth's will is going to mitigate that. That's why he's opened up all of the myriad possibilities. And ultimately, I think that's going to be the tension for Cloud, and maybe even for the party. What if there was a world where Myrna did not die? What if there was a world where Zack and maybe Aerith did not die? Sephiroth's enticing invitation is pretty positive on face value, but then you start to think about things and what's the cost, and are we simply exchanging the will of the live stream for the will of this would-be god that had kind of had a failed life? I think that is what I was kind of looking at, and he's holding out this white materia as saying, follow me and I'll give you that hope that you seem to have lost throughout your whole life. I think it's also why you've got that weird filter at the end, that it's like this machination of his own imagining.
Yeah, like
I buy that.
he's
Good call.
tempting, and that's very Genova core. It's like
very
he's and I think that's the more grounded explanation. But I think there are some unresolved things, and maybe Jordan can bounce off of this. Blitz in chat, Blitz, love you, says, what if he steals and fills the clear materia that Cloud is holding? Because Cloud's just holding this weird clear materia now. And what if he fills it with something with the white materia, or with holy somehow, or what if he is he's filling it from these other broken live streams, the whether or not those worlds are just in the live stream or not. The live stream is the mechanical essence of all magic, so it's where all of this stuff was hidden anyways. So if something is filled with live stream, it's really powerful in the real world, or in the top layer world. So what do you guys think about that? Like how are we resolving this weird like black materia that's in the Buster Sword and this weird extra clear mirror materia? How does it relate to this? Was this tempting, or was this temptation filter real, or was that the red herring? Jordan.
Honestly, I wish I had more of an in-depth answer. I said earlier, but some of the stuff is like above my pay grade. I've always been one to like watch the trailer, I get excited, talk with chat a little bit, then I'll throw on a YouTube video, throw on a stream, you guys, someone talking about it, and I'll be like, oh, that's a cool idea.
Pay grade.
Kind of weigh my options or like ideas as well with it. So I don't really have anything, I guess, any guesses personally, but I like listening to you guys talk about it because it's interesting. So
it's cool stuff. Yeah. I mean, it's fun. And
honestly, we need that to ground us a lot of times, because I can get all in my head canon.
I'm just here to take it in, and like I'm excited to see what happens, and I'll go with whatever happens in the game. Obviously, it doesn't mean I'm going to agree with it, but I'm just excited to play it.
I do think, and I don't know if we've talked about this, maybe this goes to what Blitz said a little bit, but I do think that iconic moment at the end where Cloud says to Sephiroth, oh, we're here to show you our memories. And then later in Advent Children, there's not a thing that I don't cherish. I think that it is going to be a fully filled up clear materia, now white materia, that is being held out to say, these are our memories, this is what we've done. It may even be a side quest component. Who knows? Like you're collecting memories of the live stream in thin places, who knows? But to be able to say, like, this is what we're fighting for, and we filled it up, not the way that you would have. I don't know, curious.
What if the clear materia ends up being, you fill it up with the memories of like 12 random Cetra visions, and then it becomes the Knights of the Round.
Listen, I am for it.
Works for me.
I am so for it.
Okay, fair enough.
I still think personally, I still feel that I think the clear materia really is being built up as I almost think it is meant to be the thing that actually. But it is, because we already have, like, we've had the black materia, we've had the white materia in the original story. That has always been like the general, like, the back and forth, right, of stopping Meteor and then Aerith essentially stopping it. I genuinely think that this empty materia is probably something that Sephiroth himself maybe never even really considered, because it is like this weird outlier, this thing of like, this shit never existed before, man, of like, what? And all because, again, this all was birthed because the Whispers stole the memories of Aerith, and so it left this empty materia, something that Cloud ends up with at the end of Rebirth, and he's just like they're clearly building up to something significant. I do not foresee the empty materia being any way like an optional thing or even just like a side thing. I think it is a significant thing. I think it is something.
Way. It's the Knights of the Round. I'm totally joking, by the way.
Yeah. I think the and I believe in a lot of ways this empty materia is literally symbolizes Cloud. It represents who he is that, like, he is right now, he is just an empty shell of a person, really. He's not really himself. He believes in a completely false narrative about his life, about what actually happened in Rebirth. And I still think that when he reaches that point of awakening, I firmly believe that materia is going to be filled with his memories, because they've added like this additional thing, this lore of materia being the compilation of all of our memories, and I think that's kind of what we're building towards. Is with that materia, it's like it's a coming together of all things of FF7, all memories, this understanding that we've done and seen these things before, and it's building towards maybe forming a materia that, like, extends beyond even what the power of what the white materia is. Like the white materia is essentially something that even Sephiroth at this point takes into account, right? Like as a viable player. I think this is going to be the thing that he doesn't expect. He's like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
What is this shit? And it's like, this is the thing that ends up, I don't know, truly maybe saving us from whatever actual true objective Sephiroth has.
Yeah, right. And I agree. I think that's what is being set up. If we get ultimate Sephiroth, we get like omni multiversal King Safer Sephiroth with 2 arms that eats meteor. How do we fight that? And I think the answer does have to do with this new plot device that diverges from the original. Like this is, this is the Chekhov's gun they kill Sephiroth with, right? Is this
and maybe and maybe even that image of Sephiroth we see of him holding the white materia is literally showing us we can't rely on the white materia to save us this time.
Yeah, totally. I have a question. It's a little one, but Dev wants us to see it, and here's a thought. Angeal will join as a guest character, Aerith and Zack, and fight against Genesis and Minerva. Now, that sounds kind of silly, but there is this real possibility. Like, we have all the, like, Zack's in this shit a lot. Like, Zack's in this game a lot, apparently. Mm-hmm. Is Zack in the Beagleverse? Or is he in this other layer of reality with Aerith? And if that's the case, and there's this other layer, it would be really cool, to like use that as this way to fight Genesis and Minerva. And we know that Genesis is like asleep, according to Dirge lore. And there's this connection between being asleep and being able to like visit, the live stream. Every time we see Cloud in one of the interlude segments, it's usually while he's dreaming, right? He's being born by sleep, because Nomura is involved, etc. So I like personally, I do see that as like a possibility, and it would be cool, to get like an Angeal mention. Like if we're probably Deep Ground's there, so we're probably gonna see Genesis, right? Angeal has been like curiously absent from 7R in particular. Not at Ever Crisis. We get young Angeal. Like we know Angeal exists. But what I'm really hoping too is that at least when we get to Mideel, they don't put this bizarre fucking wall of lore and information between Mideel and Benora, right? Because we know that Benora's supposedly on the same continent. It's like the same, or the same subcontinent. It's in the same region. So I would love to be regaled of stories of Angeal, and I want people when they see Cloud and the Buster Sword to be like, wait, what? Like, I know a guy that died paying for that sword, I'd like to see those kind of references show up, So that's my response to this question. Like, do you guys want to see that? Would you guys feel cheated if that's the only way that we see Zack and Aerith is in like some separated layer where we have these other fights and they exist? Or does that bother you? I'm not sure if it bothers me that much, but I'm curious what you guys think.
I mean, I think Angeal like being mentioned in some way and being brought up, I could definitely see it just being because he's much more closely tied with Zack and he's tied with Sephiroth and Genesis, but not really specifically maybe with Cloud, more indirectly. So like I wouldn't be surprised if that gets with our time with Zack, if that is something that maybe gets brought up in some way of him maybe helping guide Zack to where he needs to go as well, like an idea of him helping indirectly, or just simply even mentions of stories about Angeal, Zack seeing himself or seeing just like visions of like, well, what would Angeal do here? But yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'm necessarily one way or the other. I think be. I mean, I think I've liked Angeal. I've liked the thought of him. I don't know if I say I loved the execution of him as a character in Crisis Core. I think he starts off great and then eventually gets a little like, okay, yeah, all right, like it gets a little, and that's that's a lot of it. Is some of the problems I have with some of the writing of Crisis Core. But I've always liked him as like a mentor, as a character that helps to guide Zack and others, and who's a friend of Sephiroth. So like, I wouldn't mind him appearing in some way in that regard with his ties to these characters. But as like necessarily like a direct like a party member or anything like that, I don't know. I mean, I'm down. I'm down to see how they execute it. But
Okay, yeah,
how about you guys?
yeah. What do you guys think?
Wade, it's all you.
I would feel more cheated if none of them were mentioned or showed up.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
Like, I want Genesis. I can't believe I'm saying that because I really didn't like him very much. But like, if this is going to be the thing that unites the entire compilation, then there's got to be a nod. There's got to be something. And I hope that it's not just a VR battle sim. I hope that there's a substantive grounding of that character. I love the idea of going and visiting people that also knew Angeal, or the impact or effects of Genesis, right? Or even if it is, whatever verse life streamy Zack having to confront those old quote demons, right? I'm fine with that. But I just want him to be present in some way. That's it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I agree, and I think that we're biting off a lot as it is, by trying to like really add spice and flavor to existing OG events while taking out, like beloved locations like Bone Village. I mean,
God
like,
damn it!
so we're so like I like, but so having like a verse, like this, we have this afterlife / multiverse / live stream, Zack, fighting the rest of Genova's corruption or whatever, or finding Genesis and Minerva. As much as I understand the need and want to keep those things separate, so that they don't touch or collide in a way that derails the plot, because that's very difficult in a story to do. I do worry that like if we have yet another playable character, like if we have Angeal, we have 3 Buster Sword users. That's like it's a little tough. I would rather see like Angeal as like a I hate to say it, but like a optional battle, and it can be VR style, but like just please kill that background, kill the VR like sanitized thing. I like the idea of being able to, Chadley being able to fast travel us to difficult fights or whatever, but it doesn't need to be like, even if they upgrade the VR so that it is in the environment that you fight it in, I'd feel a lot better about the whole, humanoid super boss thing, but like, I do kind of just feel like, the partitioning of Zack and Aerith to, this background underlayer thing, is going to not land for a lot of people. And, it's not high on my list of priorities for what I want from the game. So I'm going to be able to survive whatever happens. But I do have my finger, I think, adequately on the pulse of what the fandom expects and wants. And, there is always that danger. And my hope is that the devs just do what they want and don't care what I'm saying about it, and, so that's kind of what I have to say on that. Okay. Go on.
I was just going to say, I think Angeal, he'll be a summon. He flies down on his wings and he's like, let me help you.
He's the white materia.
That's
the
how
solution.
That's how he pops up.
Clear materia summon is it's Angeal.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're gonna get a lot of angels in this one. One-winged angels everywhere.
Yeah. Oh man, if they give Cloud a wing, I'm gonna lose it. I'm gonna
It's
lose
over
it. I
at
need
that
Cloud to
point.
get one wing.
Yeah.
in Cloud final form.
Well, and I mean, we need that Xenogears crossover where you've got the two one-winged angels helping one another fly, and
Yes.
it's Sephiroth and
Yeah.
Cloud
Yes.
soaring the universe.
Yeah.
And then Cloud gets a wing, and then he doesn't need the high wind anymore. I don't need a bird anymore, bro. I'm just gonna be fucking flying around with my singular wing across the world.
They intentionally showed the high wind because they've got that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're riding the high wind and they see Cloud just flying in the sky. They're like, Cloud, get in the fucking ship.
You blast him with a laser, it'd be great.
Like. So I know it's crazy, but I really do think that there is this bizarre emphasis on the way that the black materia fused with the Buster Sword that I think that and whatever happens with the clear materia will factor into end game gameplay. And I do think that ultimately like the nature of the final conflict between Cloud and Sephiroth is going to be more intense. It's going to have more moving parts, and it is going to generate some finality that wasn't present in the OG, that does, like you say, resolve all of these strings, so we're at like 2.5 hours, which is more than I always shoot for, but I'm happy that you guys have stuck through it. I kind of want to give you guys a chance to ask a question of all of us, and we'll start with Jordan. Do you have a question for all of us?
I do. I wrote it down yesterday actually because I thought I'd be too scared and I would forget. How do you think the Promised Land will like show up? Because we had the cutscene in Remake and we like saw it, and then when I was playing that game for the first time, I was like, oh, like maybe it shows up later in the game in the original, and then I went to play the original. I was like, no, it doesn't happen. So now I'm like, will there be like hints of it that's happening, or will that? I don't know. Will there be something with it that's more than the original?
Wade, do you have anything to say on the Promised Land?
I'm trying to think of how to exactly say it, but yeah, I think it's going to be a huge emphasis, especially because at the end of Rebirth, from the Temple of the Ancients to the ending, there is an emphasis of Shinra pursuing the Promised Land and misunderstanding what it was, and they now have a better recollection or understanding of what it is. So I think that we are going to see it. I think we're going to see Shinra trying to enact it. I think that's going to be a heavy part of the Northern Crater. I think it's going to probably be shown through some visions and rifts and all that kind of stuff. But I do think that it is, instead of an exact location, it's going to be a state or a consciousness more than that is to be desired. It's almost like the people building the Tower of Babel. How can we get to that divine space? Because it wasn't necessarily in our ethereal plane. We're going upwards.
Agreed. And before Nico answers it, the Promised Land is actually something that I think they left beautifully unclear in the OG, and it's one of those things where I'm like, you could fuck this up by being too clear. This is something exposition and clarity might be upsetting on, even if it turns out to be something esoteric, like the friends we made along the way, or more of a state of being or anything like that. Like explaining it takes away some of its mysticism, right? But the idea that everybody has this idea of what the Promised Land is, and it drives them to do insane and harsh things to the planet, is really important messaging of the game. It's very important to the environmental messaging of the game. And I hate to say it, but how diasporic people respond and the idea of promised lands and has real world parallels that are really interesting to look at, and they've been relevant to world geopolitics on our planet for thousands of years. But right now. It's something that comes up a lot, and I think this game and the concept of the promised land can be used as a tool to examine that, not give answers, because those are hard answers, and that's something that the OG didn't do. It didn't answer. It instead just held up a lens. And so I hope that the promised land maintains its mystery, but I hope that the lens that is put on it is more modern and matches the level of scale and depth that the lens that all of the re-trilogy has so far put on political themes. That's my answer. Nico?
Yeah, I'd say I definitely personally don't necessarily want an actual physical representation of the Promised Land, because I think the Promised Land is always meant to be like, everybody looks at what it is, this idea, in their own way. What is the Promised Land? For Yuffie, maybe the Promised Land is a world where Wutai can be accepted, where there is no war. For Sephiroth, it is this new world without death. To Rufus, it is a land of infinite Mako that Shinra can use and take to, become the ultra superpower. Everyone has like this envisioning of what this Promised Land actually is. But I think it's always meant to be a concept, an idea of like your idealized like future, the thing that you want, right? More than anything. And how the Promised Land is, the idea of it is that it doesn't exist, but we have to compromise to make at least our best Promised Land. The idea of that this is the future that we make. It may not be perfect. It may not be the legendary, like, beautiful Promised Land that we've all envisioned, but it is my Promised Land. It is what we have all put our blood, sweat, and tears into creating. So I think that idea is, it's basically a goal for everybody. It's what you idealize as your ultimate end game. So I don't know if we'll ever actually see it in that way, other than maybe in like flashbacks or something of what the Cetra or something of what that world was that seemed to be like a utopia. But even then, man, I mean, fucking hell, they're all dead. That shit didn't go like exactly super great for them either. So I think that's sort of, it's always been a really cool concept, but I sort of agree with Clark that I think that, yeah, they could fuck that up if they go a little too like, oh yeah, it's just this cool place. Look at this. It's right over there.
Yeah.
So
I think you're exactly right, Nico. I mean, the Promised Land, historically, when cultures have kind of focused on this, it is a representative of both a place and maybe a future place, like heaven or Valhalla or something like that. It's this place that we are heading on to. And Final Fantasy VII poses this question, which I think is really interesting, is the Promised Land attainable when it's no longer attainable? Right. And so if you lose the land, that's why I was losing it when you said diasporic, because when you are dispersed throughout the world, how do you maintain Promised Land in a land that's not your own? And Aerith, her journey through rebirth of self-discovery and realizing that she didn't have what Cloud and Tifa had as children, as friends, and being brought into this relationship with all of these other people, she for the first time is experiencing a type of Promised Land. She herself doesn't even know, as a Cetra, where the Promised Land is, but she's beginning to sense it. And I think that we see that at the end. I think that that's probably one of the things that is going to be a huge revelation in part 3. I cannot believe that I just did that, right? That so organically slipped off the tongue. I was like, whatever. But I think it's going to be one of those things where it really is like, go find the Promised Land that you are fighting for, and that is going to lead us to the final battle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm only okay
because that's kind of what Sephiroth is doing, because he's wanting to bring his Promised Land as a unilateral expectation for the world around him.
Yeah.
And actually,
everyone has a Promised Land that they all want. That is it's just the goal. It's the future that everybody wants. Their idealized idea of what everybody needs,
And Blitz in chat actually says what you guys are saying. He says it kind of mirrors Genova, and our greatest fear is what she embodies. The promised land
Yeah.
is sort of what each different person sees. It's never the same. So it's sort of like a foil to the despair. So promised land is it's like the hope that matches, that meets and fights that despair. I am only okay with the promised land being a physical place if it's the physical place where I get the Advent Children fit. That's the only way I'd be okay with it.
It's on display on a mannequin, just there.
Just on
You're
a
like,
mannequin.
You're like, oh my God, this is it, the promised land. There it is, my sweet drip. Let's go.
It was Gears and Gambits.
It's
That's
just
the
a gap.
promised land.
Oh, dude, never mind. I guess
True.
I'm never getting it.
Well, thank you for the answers.
Okay. Silvertooth asked, will Rebirth get a dialogue update before Revelation comes out? And if so, what would you predict might be changed? I don't know. Okay. So that's a weird question. I just want to throw it out here. So why is that weird? Okay. I've been messing around with the latest update of Rebirth, and it breaks every mod. And I will say that it's a bizarrely intense update. It changes like skeletal stuff. It changes a bunch of stuff. So I would not actually be super surprised if we get some weird, like kind of semi-significant, like not like patch content. I wouldn't call it full DLC, but patch content that sort of lines things up a little bit different. We've already got some dialogue changes, like the Steel Sky thing, and them fixing the horrifying localization around the dying scene where he mentions missing Marlene before he was born, etc. But like, they do stuff like that. But so I just wanted to throw that out there because that was a super chat, and I felt bad not mentioning it. And then there is another one, real quick before we hear Nico's question for us, and that is, will we get Before Crisis content? If so, out of what Before Crisis would each one of you like to see here? That's a great question from Cia Dev. Thank you for the super chat. What I'll say is that we're probably going to get a lot of Before Crisis nods in Wutai. Wutai is going to be a place where we're like reintroduced to the Turks, and it's where all like the Avalanche factions are going to like be clarified. And if we're going to see Elfie, it's going to be there, so that's my answer. Do you guys have anything to add to that? All right.
That sounds good.
Nico, you have a question for us?
Yeah. So with the way we're going here, right, with the trajectory of what Remake is, where it feels like we're trying to make Sephiroth into a character, right, with motivations of his own. I still think it's pretty obvious that Sephiroth is still going to be the major antagonist. It's not like he's going to be like, yes, Genova was the bad guy all along, and now we're going to help you guys and things like that. I think it's more that, no, I think they want him to be. I think that would be a disservice too if they were to go that route. I firmly believe that Sephiroth is meant to be the major antagonist here. But I'd say at the end here, as we get to the point where I believe Sephiroth is probably going to meet his actual true end. Do you foresee, or do you want Sephiroth to feel redeemed in some way? Do you guys want him to have like a moment at the end where you feel like, you know what? Like, I get what you were doing. I understand it. I don't agree with it, but are like, okay? Or do you want him to just be like, no, man, he's just an evil piece of shit. Fuck you. Die, bitch. Like, what do you hope to see by Sephiroth at the end? Do you want that redemption? Do you want him to just kind of go out as a big dickhead? Like, what do you guys kind of hope as we meet the end of Sephiroth,
Okay. I'll start and then we'll let the other people go. I love this topic. I do. I think that, Genova is not a good villain. Genova is a force of nature. Genova is amoral, right? Like, I have like, Genova's just surviving. Everything that she's sort of conveyed as doesn't have a ton of like real malicious will. It's all just like a force of nature. Now, I will say that the level of agency that Genova has sort of elevated thanks to Rebirth. particularly like the Queen's Blood lore. So
The
there's
card game, yeah.
Yeah.
there is a chance
Yeah.
that they're kind of giving Genova a personality. But I think that you know, sort of beside that, I think that that Sephiroth having a realization of where he went wrong, you know, before he dies, you know, as gets sort of foreshadowed, I think, of all places, in Advent Children. When Cloud is holding Kadaj and the rain is starting to dissolve him, he hears a voice that he says, "Mother," but it's Aerith's voice, right? And it's sort of, and what we know of Kadaj is that it's an element of Sephiroth's will. You know, it's stripped down. All three of the remnants are parts of his will, and so there is this space open where Sephiroth sort of sees where he went wrong, and it's very JRPG. It's very Japanese, and I do see that as like kind of a possibility here, you know, as something that they sort of foreshadow. But personally,
Would you want that? Would that make you happy? Or would you be like,
I don't know. You know, like you can make things work with good execution that surprise me.
yeah,
I don't want that. I want Sephiroth to be like severely. I want him to fade into absolute fade into absolute nothingness, kicking and screaming to matter. I will never be a memory to change like Homelander style to, please, I don't want to just be a memory. Like I want that to shift to like absolute defeat, you know, and be a little bit pathetic. And yes, that's sad. That's tragic, but this is not a fairy tale. You know, there is some darkness to this story. That's kind of where I'm at with it. What do you guys think? Wade and Jordan.
Before Jordan.
Me? I'll go. Okay.
Yeah, you go first.
I was gonna say before Clark gave his answer, like I would like for him to make like the realization of like everything that happened and like what he did and like how it all turned out, but not like in a way that, or at least I wouldn't want the game to frame it in a way that you're like supposed to feel bad for him still. So not fully, I guess, on one side or the other. But from then you being like, actually, no, I want him to like kick and scream and be like, I'll be a memory forever, right? Like I actually think that would be cooler from you explaining that, just because like I think it's, even though I do like a redemption arc and all these things, how a lot of like anime and in games do, I think there is something for an evil character to go out being evil. Not in like a whiny baby evil way. Like you said, Homelander, like I think how everything happened with him was cool. But I think a way that like he's accepting of what's happening, but he's still like, fuck you, like whatever. So yeah, I'd like it to be, I guess now that I think about it and change my answer, that he'd go out and like still evil. I don't want to feel bad for him. Maybe I'll be like, oh, that sucks, like you lost, but I'm not gonna be like crying or some emotional story, I guess, to back up his intentions.
What do you think?
But yeah.
I think that the redemption that I would like for Sephiroth is probably rooted in how the party interacts with him. And so right now they are driven, Cloud especially, driven by a pursuit in rage, right? You've done all this to me. You burned my hometown. Sifa to the same degree. You burned my hometown. You killed my mom. Eventually, we're going to discover that he killed Aerith, at least in one multiverse, that he's done all of these things, and right now the driving force is that fixation on anger and angst all wrapped up into one. I think that the narrative of part 3 of Revelation being on Sephiroth, I think the focus being on Sephiroth means that there is going to be an empathy that begins to happen. Not necessarily a pity, not even an understanding, but this idea of proximity to Sephiroth's past, understanding how he spiraled in. I think some of the great series in the past have always explored the villain in that way, but they maintain their villainy toward the end. I would love for them to be driven not by rage, but by conviction, that I understand why you did what you did. We are still on the other side of that. And yeah, I could even see him completely rejecting their sympathy, pity, whatever it is that they're throwing at him. It almost, it's no surprise then that one of my favorite endings and one of my favorite villains in all of Final Fantasy is 15, Arden. And I think that the complexity of that villain and understanding why he was doing what he was doing, and Noctis still upending him by the end, I think that that was really powerful to me. And to do that for Sephiroth, with the party saying we are not driven by our perceived anger, that would be the closure, Buddhist closure in a lot of ways, that I kind of crave in this series. So
Yeah.
but I still want him to be bad. Let me be very clear.
Yeah.
I guess if I could just answer then I guess my own question too, because to me this is, I think this is easily going to be the probably the hardest and like thing for them to execute in a way, and will likely be, regardless of what they do, it's going to split people's opinions, right?
Yeah.
But I think Professor, I agree so much with what you said of like, I think that like he is already a character that I feel like they're setting up to some ways to be this foil to Cloud, because he in so many ways is similar to Cloud. He calls Cloud a puppet, but like in a lot of ways, isn't he a puppet too? Like of Genova? It seems to be that way. That's what they're insinuating. So like there is that feeling that it could feel like it could get to a point where we are trying to say like, we're trying to redeem him. Like, you know what? Maybe you're not such a bad guy after all. But I think I love the idea of like, I think they can still pull this off of just simply being, he is a man that is convicted. He's like, I'm convinced, I'm convicted to this goal that I'm going to do, that I'm going to see through regardless. And again, going to what Clark said, like, I do want to see him meet his end, not as like a, you know what, I accept this, I will fade away now. No, of him just being like, fuck you. Like he's like he gets fucking sliced or something and stabbed, and he grabs Cloud's sword. He's like, no, I will not end. This is not it. And Cloud's like, no, this is over. This is truly it. No, I won't. No. Like he's like absolutely refuses. Like I won't be a memory. I can't be a memory. And like him going out in that way of like it's almost sort of pathetic, but also you sort of like, I think that's where you can almost sympathize with him in some way, while he's still being the bad guy. He's still the guy that, you know, he's a piece of shit. He deserves to go. But of him just being like so convicted on what he's trying to do that you like respect him, of just like, he will not go gently into that good night. He will fight to the fucking end, until even as he's fading away, he's like grasping on to just whatever is like around him, to hold on to himself, to keep himself there. I think that's the way I feel like they would go about it. I think that would lead to, at least personally, the most satisfying ending to Sephiroth.
I love that. I want him to fight, and yeah, I mean, he is going to be tragic. You know, and I think he's a much more tragic villain than the true like guarantee, like absolute biggest piece of shit in the Final Fantasy VII universe, Hojo. Hojo could go in a wood chipper, and like that's like I'd be super satisfied with wood chipper ending for Hojo. But yeah, I think again, this isn't, you know, this is a complex adult story for, you know, that has adult themes and dark stuff, and sometimes, you know, that's, you convey these things that are really harsh, and the fact that his backstory is tragic, and that he has a lot of context that makes him very lonely, and and isolated. It sucks and it's sad, but that's been the source in the real world of a lot of bad things that have happened. A lot of bad world events have been predicated and emanated from that kind of loneliness and sickness. And so, not shying away from the fact that that is a thing that happens with the human character. And this is a very human story about human people, in these fantastical settings, to allow us to look at those themes in a different way. And so I'm with all of you. And great question, by the way. How about Wade? You got a good question. We'll sort of wrap it up with how we all answer.
Yeah, I don't really know if it's a good question or not, but it's a question that my college English professor used to ask us about everything. And she always said, um, a theme is not a topic. A theme is a full sentence. There needs to be a subject and a verb. And so we would always have to write that. What do you think the theme of this remake series is? And do you think, I guess it's kind of a couple questions here. What is the theme of this remake series? Is it different from the original game? And why does the world need to hear this theme today?
Oof, that is a good question. Maybe we'll start with Nico and then Jordan, and I'll go, and then you can answer your own question, and then we'll call it a day.
Well, if I had to go based off of the director's words, he described this as the theme for this game is resolve, right? It's the resolve to continue to fight, to see this series through, for them as this, to see this series to its end, and for the characters themselves as the resolve to continue to fight. They even say in the trailer, right? This is the tale of those who fight, right? I think that's the idea, is that even because I think this scenario is building itself up to one that is even more dire than the original, where it actually truly feels like there's actually no way we can stop this. Like this actually feels hopeless. There's no point in fighting because there's nothing we can do at this point. And I think to me the messaging is, even in the most dire of straits, when we're just left with no hope, even then they're going to fight all the way to the end. And this reflects to both sides. It's going to reflect to both, I think, Cloud and his team, when probably everything is just like there is no chance, and I think even Sephiroth at the end of his story, where he is like, we find a way to defeat him in the end, and he is still resolved to see his convictions through to the end. He doesn't wish to like, it's going to be a clash of convictions, of resolve, like all the way to the end. And I think that is what could lead to the best sort of like feeling of like this series. It's just like, yeah, like we followed through on our idea. There's also the 30-year cook of this insane story, and followed it through to a scenario that is like elevated the source material to a way that we never even thought possible. So I think that, to me, that's it. I think the resolve to fight, to be able to fight in impossible odds, is sort of like the thought behind this, at least personally.
Thank you.
Me? Right?
Oh, yeah.
Wait, can you repeat your other two questions again?
Yeah. What's the
Clash.
theme? Is it different from the OG? And why does the world need to hear that theme today?
Okay. I was gonna say resolve initially as well, because just based off what the quote was.
You copied me.
Yeah. It's like in class and I'm waiting and I'm like, pick me. But just to do something different, that I guess would be just to have a different answer. I don't really know. Would maybe be like, oh man, I guess more related to the main cast in Cloud is, I wouldn't. I was gonna say friendship, but then I was like, like I don't feel like super, I guess, strongly about it, but just for the sake of it being a different theme, would be something like friendship, or like ties with the people you care about. Just because that's like, of course, there's stuff with the Sephiroth and all the antagonists and all the other things that happen, But I think a big part about it, from someone who like got into the game and then played the original and then kind of like went back to see everything,
Mhm.
there's so much more focus on like your friends and the cast around them and how they
Yeah.
help each other. And even with like the whole rebirth ad with like the friends support friends thing, um
Huh.
it's all about your relationships and how, even though everyone's going through something and it may not seem at first or on face value what they're going through, like you have to work through it somehow. And even if it's hard and you go through all these things, like you will in the end figure it out. And all your friends or your whatever, the people in your life will be there for you. So I think that's like one of the themes that I guess would be a bit smaller,
Well,
beside like
just
resolve.
just to clarify, the theme word of rebirth, not revelation, was bonds. That's what they said was the theme
Yeah.
word.
Yeah.
So
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
it's true. Yeah,
you're
bonds, that's a better word than friendship because it's, encompassing like family and stuff too.
so you're
Yeah.
onto something there, you know.
You are. Yeah.
But
And
yeah, that
yeah,
would be it. Mm,
I mean I think that's also ties in again to the idea that like Sephiroth is sort of kind of on his own, whilst Cloud has people
oh
around
yeah,
him, and
true.
that's like in that level of redemption, right? Like that's what I think is going to essentially separate. Like, why would Sephiroth fail in this moment? It's probably because he's like trying to do everything himself. Even I think even by the end, Genova, his seemingly one ally, is probably going to get cut off from this too. It's just going to be
Yeah.
him. So I think you're right, dude. I think that's probably a very large part of what this story is leading to is that idea.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. The stark contrast of, being alone and stuff. But yeah, I guess for the original, is similar stuff in the original. The remakes greatly emphasize it because of current day technology. And just the added stuff, I think,
Mhm.
really makes it feel like
Mm.
true people. Like I do think the FF7 remake characters are not just from the voice acting, but some of the most real feeling
Yeah.
video game characters of all time. Like
Yeah.
the voice acting is amazing, and the voice actors, they like don't they're not acting as a character, they're truly embodying them, and you can hear it. And even seeing the stuff they do online about the game, it's like they really know them and feel like them. Um, so I think that's a big part of why that kind of ties into everything. But I think the world needs it right now for sure, for many reasons. Um, but yeah, that's my answer.
I love it. And
Mm.
like I think the game is really good uh at reinforcing that there's these it's pitting like isolationism versus community and individualism versus collectivism. Like some of it's geopolitical stuff where Shinra is
Mm.
very individualistic. Like it's very trickle down, very ubermensch. And then the ultimate ubermensch is going to be like a super soldier that's created by an ubermensch company. Like it's peak individualism, like and at its core, like at its most extreme version, that individualism looks like Sephiroth running the universe, by absorbing all the live stream, absorbing the memories of all the people. Like it's his cure for eternal loneliness is to literally eat all the other people so that he's never alone,
Mm.
and that's kind of like the perverse truth of like the caricaturized individual versus the collective. And
Mm.
we're getting a chance to see that dichotomy a lot. And so I do think that's a theme of FF7, and I do think it is a theme that's being reflected in the trilogy. um the I still think though that so there's that dichotomy between the individual and the collective. The theme of life is it's been an answer that they've given before when asked what it's about. You could say life, and I'll admit that's kind of a bullshit cop out answer. I love you, Sakaguchi, don't get me wrong. I love you. I know your mom died when you were making FF3, and that's awesome that that like comes into, because death is part of life and all that stuff. And the live stream, yeah, but it's also like saying, well, everything is the theme. Yeah, I mean, sure. So what I go back to, and this is something that Subtext made the center of one of his videos, one of my favorite videos, and this is one man's journey to find himself, and I really still think that is the crux of Final Fantasy VII is Cloud's story, Cloud's journey to find himself. How does an individual interface with the dichotomy of individualism versus collectivism? How does he fit, in a world that is threatened, by the environmental forces, by things that we can't control, by things we can control?
Mhm.
How does he fit? And does an actualized man rely on others? Is he honest with himself about his weakness? I still think that's the theme of FF7, and I still think that's going to make an appearance in the overall trilogy. I think that's the thing that gets resolved is Cloud. The problem of Cloud is the most important thing that gets resolved. That's my answer to your question. What is your answer to your question? And then we will call it.
Yeah. Real quick, why is that important for today,
Why?
do you think?
Okay, yeah, and that's a great question. And one, I think we really just need to look around and see the way things are. None of the messaging of 1997 Final Fantasy VII doesn't apply today. And
Yeah.
the way that it's being given more form, more specificity, more moving parts in a complex world with a lot of information that travels, that feels really relevant. And it feels really important to know where we are, where we stand, where we need to fight, where we need to let go. That's a great lesson for, the adults of today, let alone the kids, So
Yeah. It's
great
huge.
question.
It's huge. These are great answers, and I'm just taking some notes for my own data for myself. Thank you for being my students today. For me, I think I kind of go back and forth, and the Promised Land discussion for us today has made me kind of think a little bit more about this. But I think that the theme that I really resonate with, and this is really true in the remake series, though it was evident in the original game, but it goes back to a take on a phrase that Barrett makes early on. But it's the idea that your reality is going to be determined by what you do when you realize that there ain't no getting off this train we're on. Because when you realize that this is the train and the tracks that you are living on, what do you do with that? Like Aerith says, the past is in stone. In the future, even if it has been written, can be changed. But even if the script of the future can't be changed, what's your perception of it? You can be on the train, you can be under the plate, and you can also be in the promised land, like we said earlier. And I think that we all want to be revolutionaries that change the world, and the party starts out doing that, right? But what happens when the world doesn't quite turn out the way that you wanted it to? And what do you do then? And is there a way through when you've lost everything and you've lost the hope of that world that couldn't exist anymore? For me, I think that is a really powerful theme that resonates with a world that feels a little bit paralyzed right now, with leaders and societies and problems, ethical dilemmas, social, economic disparities, and it feels like that we can't do anything about. And even if we can hopefully systematically make some changes, there's still a way to find a promised land where we are right now, even if nothing changes. And I think that that's the theme that I'm really holding on to right now. So doesn't mean you have to stop trying to fight.
Yeah.
That's not the answer of this. But it's very much like I'm going to move from a place of conviction, not desperation or anger. Like we said with Sephiroth. So that's it for me, I
Okay.
think.
That's so good. Beautiful. I would end the stream. However, I've just been given. There's more interviews dropped while we were talking, and
Oh
I'm going to
my
read this.
God.
Okay, and I'm going to.
Oh my God.
We're going to respond to this right now. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Naoki Hamaguchi says there's a scene that's pretty essential to the story of Final Fantasy VII, where Cloud has a moment of introspection and discovers his identity and how it fits in with Zack and Aerith. He says he's beaten Revelation about 40 times, and that scene made him cry every time.
My God.
Bro, that's crazy.
Dude can't stop talking.
That's a big one.
Can't. He's so dude. He's kept this shit in for so long. He's like
Yes.
it was like back in September. He's like, guys, can I show it off? Can I talk about it now? And they're like, no, not yet, Hamaguchi, no. And now that it's finally out there, he's finally like, finally, I can tell you how fucking peak this shit is.
That is an thing. By the way, you guys have been really generous too, and I want you guys to know all I love everybody in the chats, and then you guys have been really generous with your time. So if you guys need to leave, that's fine. But I just, like, this is a big one, right? Because this so what this is implying is that, one, maybe this scene, maybe this realization has to do with the ending a little bit, and two, also like him understanding his identity and then it having to do with Zack and Aerith together in a single scene that's really heavy. That represents a really interesting deviation from his journey before. And, for me, that's the most important thing, Cloud's journey and how it relates, like I just said. And I felt like the OG did that adequately. But if I just saw it exactly the same again, I just feel like, okay, cool. I'm glad that, future generations can see it. But me personally, as somebody that wants to be blown away, I feel like there's room for them to add stuff. What do you guys think?
I agree. I mean, I think
100%.
that it should, like, again, I'm not, we all have expectations. No one, like, there's no scenario where whatever they make, everybody's going to come together and be like, this is perfect, bro. You guys did it. It's like, it shouldn't be about that. It should really just be like, they have stuck to their guns on this story and what they plan to do all the way to the end. And I think that's just like, I just kind of want to, like, hit me, man. Hit me with what you got. I want to see that. I'm like, I want to cry to this shit 40 times too.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds awesome. Like, yeah, I think they shouldn't be afraid. If that is the idea too of, like, yeah, focusing on Zack and Aerith, and it's like, oh, that means not tied to just his identity and who Zack is, but tied to probably Aerith's death. It's like, yeah, I mean, that would, I want that important scene to hit me in a way that I didn't even expect.
Yeah. 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Hey guys, I have got to go now.
That sounds good. I think we're done.
Perfect timing.
This is really
good.
This is really good.
Okay.
Everybody in chat, thank you guys so much. You guys, I love you. You guys are the best. And you guys enjoy the rest of your days. I will be uploading this in an edited form to get out some of the, spacey bits in a couple of days. But in the interim, feel free to watch it live here. Anyways, bye, guys.